Indianapolis.
It's Kevin and Query.
I throw, you catch. It's not that hard, okay? All right, get the out of here.
I'm going to talk a lot about drills and fundamentals.
Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
On 93.5
Watch it.
and 107.5.
Boom, baby.
The Fan.
All right, Kevin, here's my question for you to shift away from your Pacers 30-win wager windfall, okay?
Okay.
Which, by the way, I got the following text last night. Jake, the unofficial but official Pacers Fan Association has concluded that Kevin's windfall from his Pacers 30-plus win bet must fund the not-so-imaginary PBR party hosted by the homie JQ at whatever not-so-imaginary venue JQ chooses. This is official. Signed, the unofficial but official president of the Kevin and Query Pacer Fan 30-plus windfall bet PBR party.
You don't have to tell me twice. 90% towards Max's education, 10% towards PBR kegs.
There we go.
We'll throw in a little pizza as well for the party there because we got to have that. I don't want to act doom and gloom, but
here's my question.
Am I a little nervous about what happened last night?
Here's my question. Which is more likely to be playing a week after St. Patrick's Day? Tyrese Haliburton or Indiana University?
Yeah, both of those questions are super relevant. Well, I guess, does IU do the CBI? Does IU do the NIT?
Kevin, Indiana's in jeopardy. You mentioned it the other day. Is Indiana going to miss the tournament? They have not done themselves any favors with these 3 games in a row, and the last 2 in bad fashion.
Before we get into that, I do want to mention the commute in this morning, really rainy.
Yeah.
And I did see from our friends down on the 4th floor WIBC a couple of school delays. I saw Center Grove, Franklin, Danville. It's a little bit outside of the direct Marion County area, but definitely just make a check of that if you're dropping any kids off at school this morning. And your commute in could be a couple of extra minutes, probably really the most rain on a commute in quite some time. Yeah, Jake, it's January 12th, and we got to talk about IU making the tournament before we talk about, anything bigger picture than that with the program. And the defensive effort is laughable. I had a diehard IU friend. I'm in a group text last night. Oh, look at the injuries. I was bored. Couldn't fall asleep. Decided to look up the recruiting rankings of the players in the game last night for Indiana and Penn State. So bear with me for a minute here, okay?
Okay.
IU had 8 guys score, Jake.
Okay.
3 of them were 5 stars. 3 of them were 4 stars. And 2 of them were 3 stars. Penn State had 7 players score in the basketball game last night. They had 5 of them 3 stars, and 2 of them got the old 0-star recruiting ranking, including 23 points from a guy named Andrew Funk. I think of Fred Funk, the golfer, when I think of the last name Funk. You recruit that sort of talent, and I say that in quotes, so you don't get run off the floor in Happy Valley when some injuries arise. And yet, here is Indiana, 1-4 in the Big Ten. And I think what we have to remind ourselves about the Big Ten, Jake, is you look at Indiana's schedule, they've got 3 games the rest of the year against ranked opponents. This is not the Big Ten with 6 teams in the top 25.
Right.
One of them is Saturday, Wisconsin at home. The other 2, Purdue. So, the Big Ten naturally will have some nice computer games, computer ranking games, but this is not, you're going to get 5 or 6 ranked teams here the rest of the way. As of right now, we have to talk about Indiana and the hope to make the tournament before we even sniff whatever was talked about preseason.
They went from, and somebody tweeted this, I believe. I think that's where I saw this, but it was a great point. In like 3 weeks, they've gone from ranked 13th to 13th in the Big Ten.
Which 13th in the Big Ten has been far too much the norm for them.
Offensively, Indiana offensively, they come down. They maybe run like a little weave up top. And then they throw it into Trace Jackson Davis. If they can get the pass to him. A lot of times it sails way over his head, wide left, wide right. You just kind of never know where it's going. If Trace Jackson Davis is being doubled, which he's seeing more of now because Race Thompson's not there, then Jalen Hood-Schifino, you hope, has his outside shot going. And if they do get it into him and he's doubled, he does have an ability to still score. Or he then makes one more pass, which typically would have been to Race Thompson, but now goes to Malik Renault, who I think thinks he's playing tight end for Bradley.
God, he's been bad.
And that's another one that, backflips, light up the cigars, 5-star recruit. Look who Indiana got. Indiana's problem has been for the last 15 years, and it doesn't matter the coach. It's literally recycle the coach. They're more in love with the rankings of recruits than the meshing and molding of recruits. When sometimes you've got to have guys like, just dirty work guys. You got to have blue collar guys.
Yeah, they don't build the puzzle very well.
That's exactly correct. That is exactly correct.
Put the puzzle together very well.
Yes, that is exactly. Indiana basketball has the same problem that the Colts have. And that is that having an eye for talent and selecting talent is one thing. Knowing how talent is going to play with each other is completely another. Two totally different things.
Jake, they've allowed 80 straight in their 80 points in 5 straight games against high major teams. The 3 Big Ten games that you just mentioned, Northwestern, Iowa, and Penn State, which last time I checked, I don't think those 3 are the juggernauts of the Big Ten, Northwestern, Iowa, and Penn State. And then you go back to Kansas and Arizona as well. 80 points in college basketball is a lot. Trust me, we all watch college basketball. There are some nights where you're like, oh my gosh, are these teams going to get to 60? Yet Indiana on the defensive end, Mike Woodson's calling card, again gives up 80 points in 5 straight games. You would think kind of playing IU should be the exception. Like, hey, we're going to show up every night. We're going to give this great effort. But, Jake, you would hope that those would be wake-up calls.
Yeah.
5 straight. And I go back to the recruiting rankings I mentioned earlier. I mean, I went to Indiana and Tom Crean's first 4 seasons. It's not like they're running Tejon Jobe and a manager out there.
Tejon Jobe was fabulous.
Loved him at the top of the 131 when Crean would utilize that at times. But they are playing, again, on paper, talented guys. The other big one last night, as you mentioned, the Pacers in New York. Jake, we're now, what was that? That was the first game of the second half of the season? So game 42.
Yep.
I don't think we have recapped one Pacer game this season where we'll probably focus on injuries as much as last night.
And the big one, Tyrese Haliburton, who has been the straw mixing the drink for the Pacers. And in the third quarter, he got hurt, left the game with what looked to be a knee injury. There was no update directly on his injury after the game. Myles Turner also did not play.
Very awkward play there when Haliburton went down.
And do we have the Rick Carlisle sound, Mark? Here is Rick Carlisle afterwards, which obviously would be, I guess, the most recent, quote-unquote, comments made because it's 7 o'clock in the morning. We probably will not know more until later this morning or perhaps early this afternoon. But first off, there was a lot of question about Myles Turner because of the fact that Turner was a late
spasm
scratch.
Early. Yeah.
People thought, oh my goodness, has Myles Turner been traded? Please tell me that's not the case. It apparently was last-minute back spasms. And then Haliburton in the third quarter, and the Pacers got down by as much as 25 before they roared back. Had to do so without Haliburton because he left the game. He was seen afterwards leaving on crutches. This is Rick Carlisle last night.
We finished our team meeting, and then as the players got up to go out, Myles Turner had a spasm reaction in his back, and so they tightened up pretty significantly. So trainers worked on him for a while, and all of a sudden he was ruled out. He's not been traded, as I guess Twitter is blowing up saying that he must be that he's getting traded. Believe me, I have no interest in trading Myles Turner. But anyhow, and then Tyrese on the fall, and I believe it was the third quarter, left elbow, left knee. He's going to leave the building on crutches, just so everybody's aware. And he'll get checked out tomorrow. We hope it's not serious.
It was awkward, Jake. Haliburton, first off, I was very unsure why James Johnson was in the starting lineup. I'm thinking Myles Turner, late scratch. Isn't this a golden opportunity for Isaiah Jackson and or Jalen Smith? But yet James Johnson is going to get the start. He shot the ball in the first play of the game. Oh boy, I've seen enough. There was another play where Haliburton's driving and kicking to Terry Taylor. It was one of those nights where Haliburton just had so much on his plate.
Late in the game, go guys hitting a three.
Yeah, wildly impressive that they came back. But they were down 4 of their top 8 guys at the end of the night. No, Aaron Nesmith didn't play due to illness, yet traveled. That one's kind of odd to me. And then O'Shea Brissett was out due to a hamstring injury. So you were missing, some notable guys. But the Haliburton play late third quarter, he drives, and again, he's trying to do a lot. This reverse kind of left-handed layup, and he falls, and Josh Hartenstein, for those that don't know, is a big dude for the Knicks, 7 foot, 250, and he falls and actually lands on Tyrese's right foot, actually takes Tyrese's shoe off with the landing. So at the time, you're kind of watching, you're thinking, oh, that's a right foot injury, and yet Carlisle says left knee and left elbow. For what it's worth, Haliburton, I would say very slowly and gingerly with a limp, walked off the court. He was initially ruled questionable to return, and then 5 minutes later, Jeremiah Johnson comes back on the broadcast and says he's out. So this is all we've got to read right now, Jake. You would think if it was something like ligament related, maybe that initial ruling would have been just out. He wouldn't have been even ruled out,
right,
or ruled questionable. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to look for positives in that. But nonetheless, anytime a player like Haliburton, who I would put up there in the top 5 most valuable players to a team in the NBA, anytime he's leaving the arena on crutches, not good news.
Well, we talked about with Indiana, with IU, how they have talent, but they're not great. You said it perfectly. They're not great puzzle makers, right? At putting pieces together of a puzzle. The Pacers have been that. They have been a team that has done a really nice job of assembling a really good-looking puzzle here. But Tyrese Haliburton is that one key piece that sits right in the middle of the table and everything attaches around it. I mean,
without a doubt. And I know a lot of people don't really care about this, but for Tyrese, it's kind of a thought that popped in my head last night. Jake, if he were to miss multiple weeks, maybe a month coming up here, that likely takes him out of the All-Star game.
Right.
And for a guy like Haliburton, that is something that
I think substantial time missed in general takes him out of the All-Star game, just because he's got to be, he's not the kind of star that's playing in LA or Miami where he's on the forefront of people's mind. Right?
Yeah, that is probably a good point. So I think we'll wait to kind of, again, jump to major conclusions on this, how this could impact, the remainder of the second half of the season, all that, until we get official word on how long he's going to be out. But again, back spasms for Turner flared up, as you heard from Rick Carlisle there. Sounded like just a half hour before tip. And again, it's not the foot injury that Turner had this time last year right before the trade deadline, but it's a big man with a back injury. And if this lingers, how does that influence what the next couple of weeks looks like for Myles Turner? Because 4 weeks from today is the trade deadline. While that comeback was, outstanding by the Pacers last night, they ended up losing, by the way, 119-113. Jalen Brunson made some plays late. A guy that cannot throw it in the ocean right now for Indiana?
A guy that cannot throw it in the ocean for Indiana. Probably half the roster, right?
I was going Pacers. Chris Duarte.
Yeah. I saw somebody asked if it's Duarte. Do you remember a year ago we discussed this? Duarte, to me, I think he's a nice piece, but he's always felt like my proverbial 20-25 guy, right? If he's giving you 20 a game, you're probably winning 25 games a year.
He's 4 for his last 30.
He can do a lot of different things.
7 for his last scoring, 45.
That ain't, oof. Does he need a change of scenery? We talk so much about trades. Is he more of a trade piece?
And again, you've got a little bit of a logjam back there. Obviously, with Haliburton out for whatever period of time he's out. Minutes will be a little bit easier to come by for those guys in the backcourt, but Aaron Nesmith, I think, has certainly showed you more than Duarte has. So, yeah, that's a guy that definitely does not look like an unquestioned piece for you moving forward. You know what popped up on mine? You ever heard of Time Hop, Jake?
I have. Isn't that where it takes a post from like 5 years ago and reminds you of it?
1 year ago today, we did the human bowling.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get? You didn't get hurt in that. You got a strike, right?
Yeah, just a little bit of neck pain. But yeah, I was looking back at the pictures. Man, Rosie and Boomer, that relationship did not go well. But solid wingspan. God, we that was still when you had to rock masks for the on-court.
So 1 year ago today, I mean, we would have only been like 2 months into the show, right?
Yeah, that was a great celebration that you had. I'm watching the video right now. Good high five by us. That was good chemistry early on.
That was team building as well.
54-49 Celtics at halftime, by the way, of that game. They clipped up the Jumbotron.
That was pretty fun, though.
You think we'll get asked to go back for the knockout, or you think I've been banned?
Well, you did get the. I would. Would you do it again? I probably would.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Paris Campbell did it with us.
Oh, for knockout.
Yeah. Oh, human bowling? Yeah, I mean, I would do it again. Gosh, I feel like I've just seen like 5 different heat lightning moments out there. Am I seeing that right, Mark?
Yep. Scared the bejesus out of my daughter this morning.
Really?
The bejesus? Something that gets scared out of you?
Now, there's a little bit of delay
Is that blasphemous?
out where you are, Mark.
What?
I know you're, Brownsburg, Avon area, but Danville on a 2-hour delay. Mm-hmm. So, again, for those kind of donut counties, maybe on the outskirts of that, check out the delay situation.
I thought you were saying that life's on delay on the west side of town.
No, well,
over in Avon, they're usually about a year behind.
To be fair, yesterday we did have a delay at the airport.
If that heat lightning is traveling on Rockville Road, it's a bit slow this morning.
Rather
right?
significant. We had the Colts' first head coach interview yesterday. The reports are Raheem Morris on Friday, Shane Steichen, Eagles offensive coordinator, on Saturday. Bubba Ventrone, Colts special teams coordinator, gets the first interview. That took place yesterday. Jake, I don't slot Bubba into this. Fire everybody on that staff. They all were toxic. They all, have their hands dirty. I think week in and week out, over the last 5 years, that Colts special teams unit has been an advantage for them. I said it a few weeks ago, wrote an article up on 1075thefan.com back in late December. The new head coach needs to try and retain Bubba Ventrone. I just think he's a young, emerging guy that Bill Belichick has thought extremely fondly of. Undrafted free agent, Super Bowl winner. I think he brings just kind of a different style of coach than Frank Reich. And again, special teams coaches, you look at John Harbaugh, you go way back, Marv Levy and Mike Ditka as well. I mean, special teams coordinators have become, there are instances of them becoming pretty successful head coaches in the league. So I don't know how realistic it is he gets the job necessarily, but I think he's deserving of an interview.
Yeah, he's one that you have, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, I guess you just said it, but Bubba Ventrone, like you have been, fan is maybe the wrong word, but an admirer of his for a while, right?
I think that's very accurate.
What about him do you particularly like?
I like his energy level. I think he walks that fine balance, Jake, of being stoic when necessary, but can also light a fire under some guys. And again, the appeal to the special teams coordinators is this. You'll think about an end of the week for a team. Hey, I don't know if this guy's going to make it. Is he going to be healthy enough to play on Sunday? The injury report. You're bringing your special teams coordinator in all those meetings because that's the one that has the biggest domino effect. If you're taking a guy off his unit because he needs to play a bigger role on Sunday, right, now he's in scramble mode. So he is very in tune to the back end of the roster. And he pretty much coaches everybody on the team when you think about it. Because you're a field goal guy, so you've got some of the bigger guys that play on that unit. Again, you're a special teams guy, which obviously kick and punt, so you've got a lot of the younger guys. And, I think in a way, a guy like Kenny Moore going from good special teams player to defensive player, Zaire Franklin going from special teams captain to a defensive player, Bubba Ventrone helps in that area.
On special teams, aside from like the field goal unit, because obviously there you've got just guys blocking, but on the return on kickoff teams, and I guess to an extent on the return team, The special teams unit is made up mostly of players whose natural position is what? What's the most common position that gets relegated into special teams?
Yeah, I'd say DB or linebacker.
Linebacker would be probably the guess, right?
Yeah, defensive back, or I think if you look at past years, Zaire Franklin probably played the most special teams snaps. George Odom. When he was here, George Odom now with the 49ers.
You know, there've been Robert Mathis.
Safety.
Didn't Robert Mathis start as a special teams guy?
Yeah, early in his career, Mathis definitely would fall into that group. So, again, the first head coaching interview is Bubba Ventrone. Did you see that David Shaw interviewed with the Broncos last night?
Well, and I know the Broncos are also supposedly interviewing Morris, right?
Raheem Morris, yeah.
After the Colts interview him.
You know, obviously that Denver group, depending how much John Elway influence is there, Condoleezza Rice is a member of their ownership group. There's obvious Stanford connections.
Right.
I think that was made a little bit more with Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, David Shaw, who resigned from the Stanford post late last year, wish he would have resigned before they played Notre Dame.
He seems like he's a pretty
He
good
used to be
coach,
kind of the
right?
hot NFL name, right?
Correct. I mean, he had a lot of success at Stanford. If you have success at Stanford, which has been a good program, but again, you've got different standards there, then you're probably a pretty good coach. I guess it helps having Andrew Luck, but
yeah, he definitely got that program consistently, even, you know, pre and post Luck. It's not like they had a huge fall off until here as of late. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that front and start to look ahead to this weekend. NFL playoffs. Again, 2 games on Saturday. Seahawks, 49ers, Chargers, and Jags. We've got 3 on Sunday. And then for the second year in a row, it's the Monday night wildcard game. That will be Cowboys and Bucks. So it looks like, no Lamar Jackson and no Tua Tagovailoa?
yeah, Tua is the one. If I'm Tua, I'm looking long-term at that, of not being available, to be honest with you.
And you know what? If you look at both of those situations, Jake, it sounds like the backups are both iffy. Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, absolutely, in Miami, yeah.
Yeah, iffy in Miami. So that would be Skylar Thompson. Sounds like an ex-gamer. He would be starting for Miami as they take on Buffalo. And then for Baltimore, we'll see if Tyler Huntley can make it to Sunday. If not, it would be Anthony Brown.
Do you guys remember my Mitch dilemma about a couple of months ago?
Vaguely. You were supposed to meet him for lunch or something?
I just had in my phone, it just said Mitch, 1 p.m., and we never did figure that out.
You waited out in the lobby with flowers and chocolates, and no one ever came up.
Well, today I've got another dilemma.
Which in the rain would probably be a good look today, you know?
I've got in my phone today for 1:30, it just says Fisher's Career Day.
Oh, yeah. I've got that today, too.
Is that today?
Yeah.
Do I don't know who asked me that.
It was a buddy of mine teaches at Fisher, so yeah, I'm speaking there today, career day.
Okay, so are you carrying that flag? Because
I can totally represent us.
I must have been asked at some point, and then I never heard again about it. Nobody emailed me this week or anything to follow up. So am I off the hook?
Yeah, I will happily say representing Kevin and Query.
Okay, thank you.
And if there are any kids weeping and crying, I will make sure to comfort them. Well, yeah, I don't know. That's
There's a Bucky nugget, friend.
Yeah, right.
I do have some of those too.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, for those commuting in this morning, a little bit of rain on your way in. Visibility sounds like a little bit outside of the Indianapolis area. Something to keep an eye on. But hey, at least it's not snow, right?
I thought that exact same thing this morning. I walked out and I thought, you know what? It's been gray forever. It's misty. It's 35 degrees, and I thought could be 10. Could be 10, and this would be snow and ice on the windshield and all of that, not so fun stuff. Big negative on that.
I'm seeing this behind you right now. Jake, Charles White passed last night?
Yeah, passed away at the age of 64, I believe he was. The 79 Heisman winner. Charles White was on the cover of Sports Illustrated with Billy Sims. Billy Sims had won the Heisman in 78. The famous cover of the two of them pulling it and said, hey, man, that's my Heisman, or something to that effect. A decent pro career, but obviously a dynamic runner in winning the Heisman in 79. Really the first Heisman winner that I can recall, to be truthful. Passed away from cancer, unfortunately, at the age of, he was either 64 or 65.
Yeah, I think it was 64.
Yeah.
Gosh, your Heisman knowledge.
What's that?
Your Heisman knowledge is just outstanding.
Well, thanks.
That and Indy 500 winners. Anything else that we should group up there? I mean, I guess now algebra.
World Series, NBA Finals, the
World Series, really?
Super Bowls were always hard for me because it's in a different calendar year than the season year. So it gets like real weird. But I've always felt, Kevin, that you can remember, most people can remember championship teams and the year so long as it was during the time that they were in school. Because you can easily differentiate the years in your mind based on the grade you were in school. Once you get out of school, it all runs together, and you're like, oh, man, I was at 2015 or 2019. I don't know.
I guess baseball's the only sport, but baseball, falls in the same calendar the whole season.
Correct.
So that,
right.
To your point, that I've always felt is a little bit, I guess, easier, but when the years start, Colts, do you call it the 2006 season, or do you call it they won the 2007 Super Bowl?
Final Fours, I'm pretty strong. But you got to go... You got to go like late 70s to like early 90s. Like give me off the top of your head.
81.
81 Final Four. That was obviously
easy.
Philadelphia. Indiana defeated North Carolina 63-50 to win the national championship. They defeated LSU in the national semifinals, and North Carolina, I believe, defeated Virginia, and then Virginia and LSU played in the final consolation game in Final Four history.
Now this year, you probably will need to try and remember Final Four from maybe the NIT. To get Indiana on that.
CIB Final Four. Indiana had a rematch with Wyoming from last year.
There you go. And maybe Notre Dame. Maybe Coach Bray's
Notre Dame and Bucknell fought about in the other one. Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know if Notre Dame will be good enough to get in the CBI. But nonetheless, we'll talk IU today. We'll talk Pacers. Scott Agness joins us at 8:30. We'll try and see if we can get some updates. Again, first time really all year that we've had to focus on the injuries. Tyrese Haliburton especially, and a little bit of Myles Turner from last night. Zach Keefer at 9 o'clock. We'll continue to get into the Chris Ballard press conference from earlier in the week. Had a lot of calls on that yesterday, so we'll reach out for those thoughts from you guys as well. And the Colts candidate list growing. 6 names on the list. They've had their first interview. We'll chat about that throughout the show. Kevin Bowe, Jake Query, Mark Dykton on a rainy start to this Thursday morning.
It has no beginning.
The start of something special right here, man. Let's go.
And no end.
Look, you got to get your team ready to play.
It is a constant.
Get a rhythm going.
Through every season.
Come back again.
It is always Colts season. Firing, hiring, free agency, the combine, the schedule, the draft, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, kickoff, the offseason. Questions is a season to be answered for this Colts team. The best Colts coverage is on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
A girl in Kenya dreams of becoming a doctor. An elder in Guatemala dreams of becoming part of a community. Reach out and change their world, and it will change your own. Unbound.org.
The Butler Bulldogs host Villanova this Friday in Creighton on Tuesday the 17th. 7 p.m. tip-off both nights. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets and get to Hinkle for Big East play.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm your game day face paint, and you just rubbed me right into your eye. Now your vision is super irritated. And so is that driver you just hit. And if you have cut rate car insurance, these damages will rob you blind. So switch to Allstate, save $744, and get protected from mayhem like me.
Average annual savings of new customers surveyed in 2021 who reported auto savings when switching to Allstate. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, Pasta. pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, pasta, Puccini's. Puccini's Pizza, pasta, Puccini's.
Hey, it's JMV for my guys John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Predictions are this could be a colder winter than normal, and you need to make sure your furnace is safe, efficient, and working properly before you have a breakdown on a sub-zero day. Get that recommended service right now from Love Heating and Air Conditioning, and the Love family will waive the $95 trip and diagnostic fee. I trust them, so should you. They're the best. Love-HVAC.com or 317-754-0754. Tell them JMV sent you.
Everyone knows that in Indiana, game time.
Here's a deep three. Haliburton
means family time.
He's got family in Kokomo. That might have been from Howard County.
The Atlanta Hawks come to town this Friday for Lucas Oil Family Night. Family Night tickets start at just $20 and includes a Pacers hat, hot dog, chips, and small Pepsi product. Get your Family Night tickets at Pacers.com/family. That's Pacers.com/family. Pacers, Hawks, Friday at 7.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We'll begin with college basketball. Last night, disappointment in Terre Haute as Indiana State drops their first game in the Mobile. 69-61, Southern Illinois. The winner, 4-game win streak is now snapped for the Trees, who are 13-5 overall and 6-1. In the Mobile, it was Bradley over Evansville, 91-46. Purple Ace is now 4-14 and 0-7 in league play. And the other big one we talked about, Penn State over Indiana, 85-66. Indiana now 10-6, 3-game skid, 1-4 in the league. Trace Jackson Davis had 14 and 11 boards. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Tamar Bates, 11 points apiece. Indiana looked clueless defensively and anemic offensively. Not a good combination.
And Mike Woodson had this to say after a third straight defeat.
Well, I got to manage it. We got some young guys. Our two veterans are sitting on the side, and they're not coming through that door anytime soon. So, I'm going to have to manage it. Our guys are a little down right now, and they should be. They got smacked in the face tonight. And, my thing is we're not competing at all. And that's on me. I got to get us competing harder and stronger, and we're not doing that. We was awful in guarding. We had a good game plan going in. And we half of the threes, we're right there with a hand and hoping that they miss instead of just getting into the ball and making them put it down.
And we go a little something like this.
Here's the thing. How often do we hear that, though? Literally after every game, it's, that's on me. I gotta do a better job. Yeah, you do. At some point, Mike Woodson's making a lot of money. They've got...
But at least he didn't blame Xavier and Race, I guess, fully like he did last game.
As I said last night, all we heard about with Indiana for the last year is NIL, and now all you're going to hear about is NIT, because that team does not look like that. I don't know if they're going to make the tournament or not, and it's a long year and things can get turned around. But right now, they look like a team that's got no direction, no chemistry, no clue, and no coaching.
You know what helps after 3 straight losses?
Funky Coma Data.
Well, Funk, that's the guy for Penn State who hit
that's right.
7 threes last night.
But he wasn't cold, I'll tell you that much.
I think what is also concerning for Indiana right now, you have not played Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Ohio. It's not like you're playing what you consider the top of the Big Ten. 5 straight games against high major teams, allowed 80 in all 5 of them. Last night in Madison Square Garden, it was a really weird Pacer game. They start the game with no Myles Turner, no Aaron Nesmith, no O'Shea Brissett. So you're down 3 of your top, 8 guys. You get down, as you would expect, a ton early in that game. Tyrese Haliburton leaves late third quarter with a very awkward-looking left knee, left elbow injury. That deserves all the attention here on this Thursday morning. And then, Jake, they make some wild comeback with a lineup out there of Andrew Nembhard, T.J. McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Buddy Hield, and Goga. They cut it to 2 at one point. Jalen Brunson made some plays late. They lose 119-113. But, again, injury watch, especially for Haliburton. I guess a little bit of Myles Turner with back spasms. That will dominate what Thursday matters for the Pacers.
As we mentioned earlier, sad news in the world of football. The 1979 Heisman Trophy winner Charles White out of the University of Southern California, who rushed for over 2,000 yards in the 1979 campaign, then was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. had a conflicted career in terms of off-field things, but was the 1987 NFL Comeback Player of the Year. That was significant because that was largely won due to the fact that he had 5 straight 100-yard games for the Los Angeles Rams, where he was reunited with John Robinson, his college football head coach. Those games were facilitated by the fact the Rams had just traded their running back Eric Dickerson to the Colts. But Charles White, passing away from liver cancer, also suffered from dementia at the age of 64.
When we come back here on Kevin and Corey, we'll get into the Colts conversation. Their first head coaching interview took place yesterday. Reportedly, they've got another one coming up on Friday and Saturday. We'll explain who they are. And Chris Ballard used the word stubborn to describe himself in his press conference on Tuesday. Is there a little bit of glass half full in seeing a possibility that he could adjust from his roster building process? We'll explain more coming up next here. Kevin and Corey.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan.
Bundling and saving with Geico is an easy choice, so you're free to ponder life's big questions, like what's the best animal in the world if not humans? I'd strongly consider ducks to be somewhere up there on the list. Think about it. Ducks can swim, ducks can fly, and ducks can walk on land. They have access to all terrains. They are the ultimate animal. And they wiggle their butts when they walk, which is funny. Yeah, ducks are awesome. End of story. Bundling and saving with Geico. It's an easy choice.
Yeah, my wife and I tried to do a little bit of cleaning last night when the kids went to sleep. We're looking at these windows in our house and thinking, man, we have got to get these replaced. And that's where our friends at Window Nation comes into play. It's home show season. Window Nation is bringing the home show savings to you. You get 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years, no interest, plus 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. And all of this without leaving the comfort of your home. You go to windownation.com/home show. Try their free virtual visualizer. Upload a picture of your home and view hundreds of window options. So call 866-90Nation or go online, windownation.com/home show. You can save up to 30% on your heating bills and increase the value of your home with new windows from Window Nation. Average installer has over 16 years of experience with over 20,000 windows installed. So again, it's home show season of Window Nation is bringing the home show savings to you. Go to windownation.com/home show or call 866-90Nation.
Are you ready to propose to the love of your life? Just as you can imagine all the possibilities for your future, at Shane Company, we can help you imagine all the possibilities for the engagement ring. With the largest selection of unique ring settings in every price range and great financing options, it'll be easy to create the perfect ring. We have solitaire styles, diamond halo rings, designs inspired by nature, and more. For the center stone, we offer natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds, as well as natural gemstones, including rubies, sapphires, peach morganite, aquamarine, and amethyst. You can also choose a perfectly preset ring. It's proposal ready. At Shane Company, every center stone has been hand-selected by our experts to ensure it meets our high standards for quality and beauty. Unlike other jewelers, our warranty is free, for life, and even covers your center stone. Visit the store or order online. Find the perfect ring for the one you can't let go.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Affinity is the leader in testosterone and hormone replacement therapy, and I got to tell you, I see why. Since I started a testosterone replacement program with Affinity, my energy, mental focus, drive, everything is up, and the physical benefits are amazing. Check them out at feelgreatindy.com. Guys, you can improve the way you look, the way you feel. You can build muscle and lose fat. Affinity will give you the roadmap. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You know, the reality about the state of Indiana basketball is the fact that Indiana has lost 3 straight and its season is teetering in the balance. And as my friend Greg Poley points out, Mike Woodson is starting to sound with each and every game, not like Tone Loc, but more like Frank Reich. And there was a time in the city of Indianapolis where Indiana's futility in basketball would have been topics A, B, C, and D, but they still now... If you don't mind me saying so, that was one of my greater brain-dropping spontaneously ever, right?
I have to admit, I never.
It was one of the rare
it,
moments of Jake trying to be serious, and Mark just drops that in there.
But at any rate, we will talk about Indiana basketball, but the topic still, even with Indiana struggling, I think the fan base is just like, oh, here we go again. And so we shift back to the other team that is struggling, which is the Colts, because, you know, this is a big week for them in terms of the coaching search, Kevin.
Yeah, and again, they interviewed their first candidate yesterday. Reportedly, interviews coming up Friday and Saturday. We'll get to those names in just a second. But something I was thinking about in the last kind of 36 hours in debriefing the Chris Ballard presser, Jake, is this. Ballard used the word stubborn to describe himself when it comes to his roster plan, his roster construction, his philosophy in how you build a team. Positional value doesn't really matter in his eyes. You know, he's adamant about the trenches. He's going to pay guys that no matter what position that they play. And it's probably unfair to use the word stubborn with Kevin Pritchard, Jake, but I think Kevin Pritchard would even admit that the Pacers probably held on to a roster building approach that they eventually realized was a bit outdated, and believing that Sabonis and Turner would work. And they held on to that group, and a little bit more of an aging group, not the most athletic bunch. And eventually, and honestly, probably this time last year, that's where Kevin Pritchard, Chad Buchanan, those people over there said, enough is enough. We've got to do something different. And is this that moment for Chris Ballard? Is this that moment where enough is enough? And obviously, Kevin Pritchard has turned this ship around, and it's a totally new look roster. It's a new skill set group. I think clearly, if you don't hit in the draft, particularly in the NBA when you're a small market team, you've got no chance. They've gotten several hits in the draft over the last couple of cycles. And now all of a sudden the Pacers are in a position where you feel really good about things moving forward. So if you want to look glass half full, has Chris Ballard had the look in the mirror moment? Has he had that to where, all right, what I'm doing, the results, you can't argue with them. And we just hit rock bottom, arguably, and going 4-12-1. Maybe that's giving Chris Ballard too much of the benefit of the doubt, but, and to be fair, I'll probably believe it when I see it, that he's going to change.
Right.
But you know what, Jake? I probably said something about Kevin Pritchard very similar this time last year, and Kevin Pritchard has completely shifted things, and a major credit to him for doing that. Will Chris Ballard do it?
You know, it's a great point, because it did feel like with Pritchard that he was teetering on, I don't know that his job was in jeopardy, but certainly the franchise itself was teetering on just being kind of an afterthought to most people, right? And I mean, they just, Kevin Pritchard grabbed a hold of that wheel and took control of it and took the narrative right back and got them going at the fork in the road in the right direction. And I don't know with Chris Ballard, I mean, certainly it can be repaired for him. But the problem I think that Chris Ballard runs into, Kevin, is that because they have had basically 2 years in a row of the same quicksand of futility, now to get out of that, it takes a longer rebuild in the NFL. I know that the NFL is set up for...
Definitely.
You know, the NFL is set up for teams to be able to go from worst to first, right? I mean, the way the schedule's done, certainly next year's schedule is favorable in terms of the opponents, at least seemingly on paper. But if you are starting over with a brand new quarterback, especially a young one that's got to learn on the job, then you're kind of getting yourself right back to square one here, right?
You know, obviously Kevin Pritchard's big move in starting all of this was trading Domantas Sabonis for Tyrese Haliburton, and I get there are other pieces thrown into that trade, obviously Buddy Hield being a huge part of it. But, Jake, you just can't do that in the NFL. You can't trade Shaquille Leonard tomorrow for your quarterback of the future. That's just not how that league operates. Ballard is in a much more difficult situation. He's deeper into his belief. I think in the back of Kevin Pritchard's mind, I think he always knew, boy, I really hope this works out. I'm not totally confident in it, but we've kind of built it like this. We've got no other choice. We've got to hold on to it as long as we can, and the injuries to TJ Warren and Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert, I think all of those probably contributed to a final of like, all right, enough is enough. We've got to do something differently. Again, Bubba Ventrone interviews with the Colts yesterday. That is a special teams coordinator, 40 years old. Bubba Ventrone came over from New England to join Frank Reich's staff in 2018. Bill Belichick, extremely high on Bubba. That is the first head coaching interview for the Colts. Reportedly, Jake, tomorrow's Raheem Morris. Mentioned this yesterday and talking to someone who's coaching the NFL for multiple decades. So they have not been around a person that combines great human and great coach more than Morris. Says players love him. Jalen Ramsey, one of the more volatile players in the NFL, just literally stands on top of a mountain to praise Raheem Morris for what he's done for him with the Rams. So that is reportedly for tomorrow. And then Saturday, Shane Steichen. That is the offensive coordinator from Philly.
Now that's a newer name that seems to have come about. Or am I wrong there?
He was in the original four. We kind of got those four announced on day one. Steichen, I would say, is somewhat new, Jake, to like this process. I mean, Raheem Morris's name has been thrown around before. Steichen,
I guess I was
not
so
as
focused
much.
on like in the beginning, you know, first off, once I got over the shock of not one but two Lions coordinators, and then my mind just kept going to Harbaugh, who, you know, we know did like a Zoom interview, wasn't it, with Carolina, I believe, and he still, if you look at, and who knows what to make of these kinds of things, but if you look at like the Vegas odds, they still list, at least as of yesterday, listed Indianapolis as the highest odds for where Harbaugh would coach next year, if not Michigan.
Again, the Harbaugh thing is just so odd and weird to me. I'm like, how much of this is agent-driven? You know, just wanting more money? I mean, Mel Tucker makes more than Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
Jim Harbaugh deserves more money at the college level. And again, you just had the mixed messaging with his press release from last week. And yeah, I'm very... So I get Harbaugh's resume, but I don't know if I'm one that is like, Harbaugh comes here, cures all, and the Colts are going to be on this decade-long run.
Right.
I don't know if I'm there.
The other problem with Harbaugh, the other challenge with Harbaugh, let me say that. I wouldn't say problem, but challenge that I think you have to consider. I recall, for example, when Rick Carlisle was an assistant with the Pacers and Larry Bird left, and there was thought that Rick Carlisle would become the head coach. But the Pacers brass told Rick Carlisle, listen, this is not the best situation for you because we are about to go into a rebuild, and for you, if you want to be long-term a coach in the NBA, we would be doing you a disservice putting you in this position because we're going to be rebuilding, which means the first year or two, the head coach is going to take a lot of heat because we're not going to win a lot of games. And as an unknown or unproven commodity, now, ironically, Isaiah Thomas is, I think, where they went, but it would hurt you long-term because it would stain your career right off the box in wins and losses. So timing was an important aspect of analyzing who to put in that situation. For Harbaugh, if you're coming in and you're doing not a rebuild with the Colts, but a retool, but theoretically with a rebuild at the quarterback position, then Kevin, what you're doing, and I always believe this, when you are drafting a quarterback and growing that and watering that seed, then you are looking at 2 to 3 years before you're able to say that you now are on all cylinders. And I think Jim Harbaugh is a 3 to 4 year coach because I just think that he is a darn good coach and a likable guy, but a quirky personality that has a shelf life of like 4 year max for players. That's why he's a good college coach.
Right.
Because at 4 years, you're like, okay, this guy's
burn him.
Right. This guy's goofy, right?
Yeah, I just...
the timing for me for Harbaugh would be of question, is what I'm
Does anything worry you that he hasn't been in the NFL in a decade?
Also fair. I don't know that the NFL has changed that much, right?
Right.
Because you are correct, though, in... it's a different NFL than it was, say, probably... like Jim Mora, if he was a younger man. Jim Mora coached in kind of a different era of the NFL.
And again, what he did with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, I mean, it's not like those are all-pro quarterbacks. Darn impressive there. A little bit more on Steichen coming up here on Saturday, Jake, that interview. Again, Nick Sirianni, Frank Reich coaching tree. Eagles offensive coordinator. He's called the plays. Sirianni stopped calling plays like midway through his first year. Steichen's been the guy there calling the plays. Extremely close with Phillip Rivers. Again, came from San Diego with Rivers. These are the 3 quarterbacks Shane Steichen has mainly worked with. Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. If you have a prerequisite on the list of we need someone with a quarterback background, those are 3 very different styles, very different ages. That's a background that would be enticing to that. I do think something to keep in mind with the offensive head coach. Again, that is the appeal, pairing up the young quarterback with the offensive mind. I thought an issue for Frank Reich, Jake, was he was too invested into the offense and didn't. I think at times he forgot he was the head coach of the football team.
I think that's fair. And I think you see that a lot, right? When you have coaches that are coming from, I recall when Tony Dungy first came here, people thought that at times the offense was too conservative because Dungy was focusing too much on the defense, et cetera, right? Even if it's not true and even if it's not taking place, there always becomes that stigma when you have a coach that was previously a coordinator, now is the head coach, that they are focusing on too much on one side of the ball. By the way, that's a nice shirt you have on today.
Well, I thought the Fisher's kids. I should probably. My mom used to teach at Fisher's.
Is it wool? Is that wool? Is it linen?
No, I would say I'll let you look at the tag during the break, but that could create an image for our listeners that might be a little bit awkward.
Oh, this is awkward
on that front here. Actually, I was doing some math during the break because you already have, I guess, said I'm paying for the PBR keg, so I've been doing the math how we can break down.
How much is a keg of PBR? You think?
$89.
What?
What was that?
$6?
Mark.
I love PBR, but
not based off that answer.
Yeah, it's nice and cheap and it's good.
Should I be worried about 30 wins? Does a Haliburton injury worry me?
I think it's a little early.
7-30. They got to go 8-34 in their last
7, right? Don't they have 23?
Well, they have to, so they don't have to go over 30.
At least 30 or more.
Okay.
I think you're fine for now.
I know we're in this I don't know.
If you get to early March and they're still at
$105.
26 wins, then maybe get worried.
It looked awkward last night. Haliburton going down.
A keg of PBR is $105. That's without the tap. Do we need a tap?
I mean, you're going to look at it otherwise.
Well, I mean, do you have a tap?
Hey, we can get this open. We don't need a tab.
We got a huge bottle opener over here.
Right. I use this to get my canned carrots.
I got this hacksaw. Give me like 10 minutes.
Now, where is the party again?
Well, that's also to be determined. Do you need an ice tub for your keg?
Oh, no, we're good there.
Gone.
Yeah, just put a
cold.
Yeah, we'll just stick it outside in this weather.
That's a good point.
We'll be good.
That's a good point.
You can't query. I'm Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton across the way. Is it stopped raining, Jake?
Stand by.
It was raining a good amount on our commute in this morning. Again, some school delays, a little bit out.
It looks like slight drizzle. The word that I made up, by the way, back when Sniglets were a thing, a made-up query word, it is frustrating. Do you know what frustrating is? No, hold on. I haven't even defined it.
I don't need you to define it. We're already over.
Frustrating is when there is a slight amount of precipitation, but not quite enough to use your windshield wipers, or else it makes things worse. That's very frustrating.
It was legit raining on the commute in this morning, so just keep an eye on that. Again,
do you know what an ice-scapee is?
Some school delays a little bit outside of Marion County, kind of on the outskirts of the donut counties. I'd love to stick with this topic.
You know what we need to do with the break?
It's the one cube that gets out of the freezer as soon as you open it. There's the one ice-scapee that falls out.
You know what we got to do with the break?
Hit it.
Fair enough.
The Ride with JMV.
Clearly, the plans have changed regarding the Pacers. That blueprint that was out there before the start of the season, because of the winning that they have done, has changed. And a lot of the conversation about trading Buddy Hield, I don't get. He's a shot maker in a league that desires at the highest level shot makers. To me, Buddy Hield should go absolutely nowhere.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Drought, war, and rising food prices have devastated families in poverty. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Hey, it's JMV, and maintain winter road readiness at your 14 Central Indiana CarX locations. Oil changes, tires, brakes, and more. 14 to serve you. That's CarX.com today.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof, and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and stop smoking without cravings, irritability, or weight gain. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all, or your money back. Seminars are 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville, or 2 p.m. on Saturday, January 21st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Registration is 30 minutes before the seminar. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
Save now on appliances and more at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Get deals on select major appliances and take home what you buy same day. And save an additional 10% on all in-store clearance appliances. Plus, get store-wide savings on even more items. Stock up on GE Sync Reveal 60-watt dimmable smart LED light bulbs for just $9.98 each. Head to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowes.com to shop the Truckload event today. Exclusions apply. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowes.com for details. Valid 1/12 to 1/18.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel vPro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Hey, it's JMV. Sometimes accidents happen. Truck wrecks, car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks that just shouldn't have happened. It can mean dealing with a lot of pain, broken bones, surgeries, PT, extended medical care, even death. All of which can also add up to catastrophic harm. That's where personal injury attorney John McLaughlin at Parr Ritchie can help. John is recognized in Indiana Super Lawyer magazine as an injury attorney. It's worth a free call to see if John can help you. 317-269-2509 or visit parrinjury.com. That's PARR injury.com.
Open enrollment for health insurance is underway and ends January 15th. Eskenazi Health understands this can be a confusing process. That's why Eskenazi Health is here for you, to assist you in understanding your health insurance options and also help with questions surrounding Medicaid eligibility under the COVID-19 public health emergency, which may end soon. Simply go to eskenazihealth.edu or call 1-855-202-1053 to request your telehealth appointment or to get more information.
Knockouts Haircuts for Men is the new place to trust with your hair care and grooming. Knockouts is a high-end full-service salon for men. They pamper you while you relax and enjoy a precision cut. Top-notch stylists and barbers. Every style. Cuts, fades, all hair types. Beard care, color, and waxing available. At Knockouts, get a complimentary beverage with any service. Knockouts Haircuts for Men. 2 Indy locations. US 36 in Avon next to Tropical Smoothie Cafe. And Clearwater Keystone next to Drake's. Walk-ins welcome. Or appointments at 288-0007 or knockouts.com.
Hey, it's Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Guys, do something for yourselves. Go to feelgreatindy.com. I'm on a testosterone replacement program with Affinity. Let me tell you, the benefits are amazing. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX. Indianapolis. The Pacers welcome the Atlanta Hawks to the Fieldhouse tomorrow evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
8 o'clock hour here on Kevin and Query. Scott Agness going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Hopefully get update or two on where things stand injury-wise for the Pacers. Again, it's a word we used a whole lot last year. Unfortunately, I had to give a lot of those updates, but this year they have had great injury luck. Last night, not one of those nights. Tyrese Haliburton going down late in the third quarter, a very awkward landing, stepped on his right foot, but the injury update afterwards was left knee, left elbow, and left the arena on crutches. So we'll see if we get an update today on Haliburton. Jake, I'm sure there were a lot of Indiana fans and that would be IU fans that were enough is enough. I'm turning over to watch the Pacers. You had to stick until the third quarter, into the fourth quarter to really get your entertainment and to see a very competitive comeback from the Pacers. But that was abysmal in Happy Valley last night. Penn State outscores Indiana. I think it was by 42 points from behind the arc. Isn't it amazing? Like, Indiana University basketball cannot shoot the basketball.
There are so many things that were amazing just in the state of Indiana that are disappointing, right? For example, at one point, so I was watching the game, and then it was halftime, and I ran an errand, and then I came back, and I was like, you know what? I want to see how bad they're down before I turn it back on. It was kind of like a superstition thing, and I got curious, so I looked at my phone, and then I realized when you go on ESPN.com and you just click scores, it doesn't show up, and then you're like, that's right, because they're not ranked anymore. So then you've got to go scores, and you've got to go Big Ten. You got to click 3 different. The more clicks you have to make to find your team's score, the worse your season probably is going.
That's what I have to do with Notre Dame.
And yes, it's very frustrating. Or not to be confused with frustrating, which is what it's doing outside right now.
God.
Indiana in the first half. Thank you, Mark. Indiana in the first half, they're hanging around. It's like 15-14. They've got the lead. And all you had to do was watch the half-court sets of each team to see, in my opinion, what appeared to be two teams that are coached entirely in different ways. give credit to Penn State and Micah Shrewsbury because their ball movement, they might not have, sure, they don't have 5-star guys. They don't have guys that when they signed with Penn State, there was, an even further amount of money or a higher amount of money that was deposited into the Nittany Lion NIL accounts. They probably don't have, some podcast guys called the Nittany Crazies that do cigar smoking videos when they sign the recruits. But what they do is they rotate the ball really well. They find open shooters, and they get guys in position on the perimeter where they have dead-on looks where they're able to square up because of the way that they move the ball around and the precision in which they worked offensively. Indiana offensively, so I'm watching the game, and Penn State hits a 3 and goes up 2. And then Indiana comes down, and I think it was on 4 straight possessions. They're trying to feed the post to Trace Jackson Davis. One of them, the pass just goes 8 feet over his head. One of them that he wasn't in position, and so it gets batted around, and Penn State steals it. Then they come down and they just run their set and hit shots, and before you know it, you're down 6, you're down 10, and the bottom falls out. And Trace Jackson Davis is a wonderful player. Jalen Hood-Schifino is a talented outside player, undoubtedly. But you can't sit here and tell me that Indiana is handicapped because of the fact that 2 starters are out when you have multiple players on the floor that are supposedly top 30, top 50 players within their recruiting class and etc. Malik Renault might be recruit number 30 in the country or whatever it was. That guy doesn't have a clue what he's supposed to do. And that's not to say that he's not a sharp guy. I have no idea. But he looks like he has yet to have anybody even teach him the first thing about how to play basketball, let alone how to play Indiana basketball.
Yeah, I said this earlier, Jake. I think it's worth mentioning again. I think the injury excuses are extremely lazy to the degree that you think it's acceptable getting run off the floor at Penn State. IU had 8 guys score last night in the game. 8 guys. Their recruiting rankings, 3 of them are 5 stars. 3 of them are 4 stars, and 2 of them are 3 stars. Penn State had 7 guys score in the game last night. 5 of them are 3 stars, and 2 of them got the old goose egg star. They were lucky to be in the database. And one of them had 23, by the way, last night against Indiana. So this is not IU having injuries and throwing out Tijon Job and baseball players like they did in the first year of the Tom Crean era. I think Crean actually dressed a manager, if I'm not, Mike Santa is coming to mind late in that season. It's embarrassing to go through a Big Ten schedule so far, and let's go through the murderer's row of the Big Ten schedule for Indiana so far, okay? Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, Northwestern, and Penn State. Those are the 5 Big Ten games. So it's not even like they're playing the upper echelon of the Big Ten, and yet they've allowed at least 80 in each of their last 3 Big Ten games, allowed 80 to Kansas and Arizona. That's 5 straight games that they've allowed that amount to the high major teams. Like, this is a team right now that I know a lot of people were laughing yesterday. Oh, did you see the latest bracketology? Joe Lunardi's got Indiana playing Kentucky in the first round, and Houston's the 1 seed. How funny that would be. Jake, we got to stop talking about any sort of March. You got to get to March. And right now, this is a team that when you look at the schedule, it's going to be a fight to make the tournament.
Indiana's problem is the following. And I grew up in the golden era of Indiana basketball. I realize Brent McCracken had a golden era as well, so no disrespect there. But I grew up in terms of its relevance within the state and the culture of this state, I grew up in the golden era of Indiana basketball. And I think the challenge that Indiana has now, or one of the challenges, is that the people of influence, and by the people of influence, I mean alumni, people that buy tickets, people that make contributions to the university, people that have voice about the direction of the athletic programs down there.
Would we go the Board of Trustees?
The Board of Trustees.
Quinn Buckner?
I think there are a lot of people that think that Indiana is still in that golden era that I grew up in. It's not. And it is a hard pill to swallow to realize that Indiana, for the last 25 years, yes, they have had some very good teams in that time. Tom Crean got them the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They were ranked number 1 in the country at different intervals. But I think that people fail to realize that Indiana basketball now is suddenly Minnesota or Iowa State or Missouri, and it is no longer Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina. And for that reason, I think that Indiana has developed a complacency thinking that simply being Indiana is enough, that it's enough in terms of recruits, that it's enough in terms of intimidating other teams, that it's enough in terms of the style that they play just automatically puts them in position. It's not reality. Yes, they have elevated their recruiting profile, I guess, based on the fact that they are casting a wider net to go out and get guys, but I don't think that they are recruiting to, as you mentioned earlier, Kevin, it was such a good point. They're not good at putting the puzzle together. They can get good pieces, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're big pieces that fit together as a puzzle.
Unlike West Lafayette.
Correct. That is exactly correct. You know who's not worried about how many stars Malik Renault has? You know who's not worried about how many stars Braden Smith didn't have? You know who's not worried about whether or not, Zach Edey coming out of Canada was a big enough or had enough AAU time? Matt Painter's not worried about that stuff. He goes out and gets guys that are good for Purdue basketball. Indiana is worried about getting guys that are good for message boards. And that's the difference. And they look like guys that are all playing for themselves. They're playing for their NIL money. They're playing for their Pigs.com message board pats on the back, and they're playing for their own particular brand. That's what they look like.
Yeah, you're getting some chirping on social media from players as well. Never a good sign. Hosting Wisconsin coming up Saturday afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, this is not the Big Ten that we're used to. Indiana only has 3 games the rest of the season currently against ranked teams. 2 of those Purdue, and then Saturday with Wisconsin. They've yet to play Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Ohio State. Can look at that 2 ways. Glass half full, opportunity to beat teams that you would consider to be some of the better in the Big Ten. Glass half empty, the schedule is about to get a lot tougher in the Big Ten. Again,
they just don't look well coached. I hate to say that because I know that, and this has always been my issue, Kevin.
I would agree, especially on the defensive end.
This is what makes me angry. What makes me frustrated and angry about Indiana basketball is and I had no problem. I thought Mike Woodson was actually a pretty decent hire, but I think that Indiana too quickly went with Mike Woodson. Wasn't going anywhere. You could have gotten Mike Woodson 6 months after you got him, and I know that it was a little outside the box, but it felt like Mike Woodson felt like Indiana's Jeff Saturday, the guy that was the fallback safety school. And what did Kansas do when Roy Williams left for North Carolina? Kansas said, you know what, who is the best coach right now in the country?
Yeah.
That Bill Self at Illinois is doing a hell of a job. He did a great job at Tulsa. Let's go out and get Bill Self. What did Kentucky do when Billy Gillespie was a disaster? Kentucky said, you know what, this guy, after 2 years, this ain't it. So what do? They went out and said, who is the best guy out there? John Calipari's won everywhere he's been. He won at UMass. He won at Memphis. Let's just go get our guy. And that's what they did. North Carolina, when they realized that Matt Doherty was a disaster, they said, you know what, let's just cut ties right now. And that's a guy that's within the program. And then they said, we need Roy Williams because he's a guy that is from North Carolina. Let's just go get him. He turned it down one time. Let's make it so he can't turn it down another.
Is IU attractive enough to get those guys?
At one time they were, and they slept on it. That's a great point. And that's the problem. But here's the problem.
Was Archie Miller the top of the college basketball ladder, quote unquote, of coaches that would take the job?
I think from the outside of people that don't understand college basketball, but I think inside the coaching circles, people would say, yeah, but you get a little bit of a demerit because Dayton has produced a lot of guys that looked great coming out of Dayton. The problem for Indiana. The problem with Indiana for me is when they, and I get it, you're not going to come right off of Bob Knight. I get that. But Indiana has never just basically put a full-page ad in the back of Sporting News saying, preeminent program, fertile recruiting ground, avid fan base, basketball, not football school, apply here. Indiana has expected that people just would come knocking down the door and that they didn't have to put out any feelers. And there was a time that might have been true, but that time's long gone.
I'll never forget having a conversation with a big-time IU fan, very plugged into the AAU kind of booster circuit, however you want to describe it. And he was talking about Braden Smith a few years ago and watching Braden Smith play. I think this might have been after a sophomore year at Westfield, and said to me something to the effect of Purdue's going to get this guy, and IU fans are going to bang their heads against the wall for 4 years that guy is not in Bloomington. And it's been, 2.5 months of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer.
Kevin.
And when you talk about, again, putting that puzzle together, it's just masterful how Matt Painter has handled things. And last night in Happy Valley, you got two notable guys out of the lineup, without question. You also have a bunch of 4 and 5 stars that you recruited for a reason, theoretically, and yet they're losing by 20 on the road to Penn State.
Indiana fans that are old enough to remember and long for Bob Knight's Indiana. And I know that that's archaic and probably cheap and whatever to say on sports talk radio. But Indiana fans, there's Bob Knight's Indiana teams is a part of the culture to a lot of people in this state of the way basketball, they love the fact that they played man-to-man, and they love the fact that they always played great defense and that they were unselfish, and that a guy like Steve Isle, who had been a great player in high school in the Cincinnati area, comes to Indiana and is perfectly happy or Brian Sloan being a role player, setting screens. People that love that kind of thing. People that love the way that Indiana played. People that love the fact that Indiana didn't necessarily always have the top-flight recruits versus a Michigan or Illinois, but they felt like they were coached better and smarter players and dictated the pace of the game. People that are fans of Indiana University basketball today that long for that have a hard pill to swallow in realizing that is actually right there for them to watch each and every week, and it's in West Lafayette. That's a hard pill for Indiana people to swallow.
Honestly, Jake, if you're in my age group, you don't even look at Indiana in that light.
Correct. Because I remember, Kevin, when I worked in St. Louis, my friend Cameron Dollar, who was an assistant at St. Louis University at the time and had played point guard at UCLA.
Oh, yeah. I remember that name.
And I asked Cameron Dollar, and it was when Mike Davis was going to get the job at Indiana full-time, and I said to him, man, what a situation for Mike Davis. This is the best job in the country. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, Indiana basketball. And he said, Indiana's not the best job in the country. And I said, are you kidding me? Bob? And he said, Jake, first off, it's not right now because nobody wants to immediately follow Bob Knight. I get that. And he said, but Indiana hasn't been elite in 10 years. And that was coming off of the end of the Knight era. Well, I mean, since then, so that was over 20 years ago.
Right. I mean, you're approaching I would say in the next year or two, Jake, the entire roster for Indiana basketball, none of them were alive the last time IU made an Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And yet, if you look in the state, Butler's made what? 2. I guess Butler's made 2 national championship games. Notre Dame's made 2. Purdue has made 1. I mean,
I'm trying to think.
Every team in the state.
Yeah,
if you
Indiana's
look at the
last Elite Eight was what, 02?
Yeah, it would have been the national runner-up that year.
Yeah.
I know John wanted to talk a little IU basketball. Morning, John.
Yeah, hey, so you both hit the nails on the head, and actually I'll touch on a couple of things you both mentioned. Kevin, when you were talking about Braden Smith, and I'm an IU fan, I think a couple of years younger than you, went to IU, and I still remember when Braden Smith was in high school, IU fans were saying we shouldn't recruit him because we're better than that, and we don't need recruits of his ranking, and now IU could surely use a second point guard. I also think we're still very much living in the past and think, like you said, Jake, we're a blue-blood program and think that the 4 and 5 stars are the way to go. But frankly, they look like 2 and 3 stars when they play like they did last night.
I mean, it's great to go out and get great pieces, but they still need to be coached. And I think Indiana fans are going to tire, John, of hearing Mike Woodson say the same thing after every game. I need to coach him better. I need to do better. Yeah.
I know there's probably 6 or 7 things that make a program qualify as blue blood, elite, coveted job, et cetera, et cetera. I still think IU has several of those characteristics in terms of resources that they're willing to invest, facilities, fan investment. You know, I still think there are some things there. It's just the product on the floor has not been one of them for quite some time. So, again, Indiana last night, they lose by 19 at Penn State. Coming up on Saturday, they host Wisconsin. The Pacers last night, they lose 119-113 at Madison Square Garden. You know, selfishly, Jake, outside of the injuries, I was just kind of bummed that all of a sudden from like 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 3 of the Pacers' better players were ruled out of the game. I was really looking forward to last night. Myles Turner, back spasms. Half hour, 45 minutes before tip. Aaron Nesmith out due to illness. O'Shea Brissett had a hamstring injury. He was out. And then Tyrese Haliburton leaves late in the third quarter. Left knee, left elbow. And really for the first time all season, we're talking about notable injuries of the Pacers. And again, Haliburton is a guy that just doesn't miss time at all. So he left the arena on crutches last night. Back-to-back coming up with the Hawks and Grizzlies this weekend. I think all attention, rightfully so, goes to Tyrese Haliburton and the update that hopefully we'll get today on him.
One of the things, if Haliburton is going to miss extended time, and I would say at this point, not knowing the depth of the injury, time missed is at the very least going to be an accurate prediction, Kevin. A guy that's become important in those moments is Andrew Nembhard.
I think Nembhard needs to be the starting point guard.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
When Haliburton's
and a guy,
I mean,
this is a guy that when they in camp, it was like, well, you know, if he can give him some minutes this year, that's good. And he's become, Kevin, I mean, he's on the floor in critical minutes now. Like, you want him on the floor.
And again, he's been your pocket knife. He's been a little bit of everything. Totally. I think now it's put the ball in his hands.
Did you ever have a pocket knife?
I always loved my dad's. Yeah, I'd always kind of take it out and look
What's
at it.
What's the least
used
thing on the Swiss Army knife? What's the thing?
Gotta be the toothpick, right?
Isn't like their little scissors thing?
Scissors.
I'm like,
It's gotta be the
what can that
scissors.
effectively cut?
It's got to be the scissors.
Hangnail? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one that I was always kind of.
You don't think the toothpick comes in handy?
Who wants to use that thing though?
Jake,
then put it back. Like, I'll use this later.
Let's play hypothetical.
Got a piece of jerky stuck in my teeth. I'll save this for later.
Jerky is the perfect food for someone that has a pocket knife, right?
You blow your nose and then put it back in your pocket?
My
That's
grandpa
also
did.
equally disgusting.
Yeah,
you were saying,
I'm glad
Kevin?
that trend died a long time.
Let's play hypothetical for a second. And part of me is like, let's not do this until we get official injury word, but whatever. Let's say Haliburton's out a month. NBA trade deadline is 4 weeks from today. Should that impact what you do in the next 4 weeks at all?
No. Because I don't think that Indiana anything that happens this year for the Pacers is gravy. So I don't think that you mortgage what you have right now. I'm sorry, your future from that, I mean, to better you at this point right now. Right?
Well, flip that around. You just use it as a buyer. What about as a seller? If you were to be out for an extended period of time, is that a reminder or maybe a look into Kevin Pritchard's eyes of like, man, it's unfortunate, but this is probably a sign that like we still need to think really, really big picture and potentially move one of the veterans that have played really good basketball for you this year.
For what, though?
For a future piece, pick, whatever.
Again, I may still be alone on the same island that I was on a month ago when I said that the Colts should examine trading Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Wilson is with me on the island, and that's it at this point. But I also believe that for the Pacers, part of that long-term vision includes both Myles Turner and Buddy Hield. And that they have gotten enough bonus from Andrew Nembhard, for example, and Aaron Nesmith. Those guys have been able to give them and fulfill roles for them early enough now that you've seen enough body of work to know you can run with those guys. And so the addition that you need comes from the picks you still have waiting in the wings upcoming, as opposed to the necessity to go out and get things for them, because I think you have it.
Was there ever an air pump on the island for Wilson?
I think there wasn't there? I mean, he had the VHS tapes, right?
Just kind
I thought he started like getting flat towards the end. He was there for years.
Well, yeah, and I would think it would be more weeks,
Yeah.
It's really good ability to retain air by Wilson. I mean, it's probably why the company has lasted as long as it has.
To be fair, if you're stuck,
I love a good Wilson evolution.
You're stuck on the island with just a volleyball and it starts to go flat. I'll bet you get. I mean, you got nothing to do all day but figure out ways to take care of the problem, right?
A lot of resources around. You got a pocket knife to help us out here with that situation?
Scissors are coming in handy finally.
Did he have a Swiss Army knife with a small air pump on it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, we need someone to invent that. Scott Agness talk more about the Pacers coming up in about 5 minutes. For now, it is a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We'll begin with the Pacers last night, as we had talked about. Down 25 at one point, roaring back, give them credit for that, but losing to New York in Madison Square Garden, 119-113. Kev, as we talked about, the big story was not necessarily how the game finished, but who was not finishing the game for them.
Yeah, again, Tyrese Haliburton and Myles Turner. Well, I guess Haliburton left late third quarter. Turner, again, ruled out early. For more on both of those situations, here was Rick Carlisle afterwards.
We finished our team meeting, and then as the players got up to go out, Myles Turner had a spasm reaction in his back, and so they tightened up pretty significantly. So trainers worked on it for a while, and all of a sudden he was ruled out. He's not been traded, as I guess Twitter is blowing up saying that he must be that he's getting traded. Believe me, I have no interest in trading Myles Turner. But anyhow, and then Tyrese on the fall, and I believe it was the third quarter, left elbow, left knee. He's going to leave the building on crutches, just so everybody's aware. And he'll get checked out tomorrow. We hope it's not serious.
Was there somebody snoring at the end of that? Did you hear that? I mean, I'm not saying that Carlisle didn't have a lot of energy there, but it sounded like somebody was snoring.
Back
James
spasm.
Dolan catching a quick snooze.
back spasm, big guy, worry you at all?
Not ideal, but I do think that's what it was. I don't think that he was, traded as Carlisle.
Yeah, and I didn't see much on Twitter about that. Maybe I was not on the right thread. Maybe
I did see people that were like, "Oh my gosh, what does this mean?" Yeah, I mean,
does Rick Carlisle have a Twitter?
Well, that's a good question. Do you think he's got a burner account?
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Wouldn't be the first basketball coach with that, right?
No, definitely not. Swoosh. Indiana last night in Happy Valley. What was the final? 85-66?
That is correct.
Is that right?
Hoosiers 10-6 and 1-4 in the league.
Outscored by 42 points from behind the arc. Penn State 18 of 31 from 3. Indiana 4 of 14. So we mentioned yesterday, when will reality set in for Indiana's perimeter shooting? Well, last night was a step in that direction. Afterwards, Mike Woodson on the third straight loss.
Well, I got to manage it. We got some young guys. Our two veterans are sitting on the side, and they're not coming through that door anytime soon. So, I'm going to have to manage it. Our guys are a little down right now, and they should be. They got smacked in the face tonight. And, my thing is we're not competing at all. And that's on me. I got to get us competing harder and stronger, and we're not doing that. We was awful in guarding. We had a good game plan going in, and half of the threes, we're right there with a hand and hoping that they miss instead of just getting into the ball and making them put it down.
Funky Coma Dana.
It does feel like the same verse, right? Same verse over and over for
Andrew Funk with 23 last night for Penn State, by the way.
Sad news in the world of football from yesterday. 1979 Heisman Trophy winner Charles White, who had a 2,005-yard rushing season in his final year with Southern California before venturing into the NFL with the Cleveland Browns, passing away at the age of 64. He had suffered from liver cancer and dementia, most notably in the NFL, known in 1987 for the Comeback Player of the Year after some off-field things had kind of derailed him a little bit. Got his life in order, reunited with John Robinson as college head coach with the LA Rams, 5 straight games of 100 yards or more for the Rams. That was critical for the Rams that year because they had just traded Eric Dickerson to Indianapolis.
We'll get more into this coming up a little bit later in the 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour. Bubba Ventrone interviews for the Colts head coaching job yesterday. It's a team special teams coordinator from this past season. Been there the entire Frank Reich era. Reportedly, Raheem Morris on Friday and Shane Steichen on Saturday. So we'll explain a little bit more into both of those guys coming up later in the show. Coming up next, though, Scott Agness gets us updated, unfortunately, on some Pacers injuries. We'll do that after the break.
Hey, it's JMV and maintain winter road readiness at your 14 Central Indiana CarX locations. Oil changes, tires, brakes, and more. 14 to serve you. That's CarX.com today.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-687-5192. That's 800-687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-5192.
Again, injuries unfortunately at play last night for the Pacers. For any of us in our own lives, if we're dealing with joint pain, we can get help from QC Kinetics. You don't have to go through yet another year with that knee pain or back pain. Hoosiers with chronic joint pain are getting real lasting relief from QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine, using their unique protocols as healing agents from your own body to target aching joints, repairing and restoring damaged tissue so you can move again with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. This is the future of joint pain management, and appointments are available as soon as next week. We've got locations in Eagle Creek and Greenwood. 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. Again, make 2023 the year you say goodbye to joint pain. QC Kinetics, free consultation is awaiting you. Locations in Greenwood, Eagle Creek. Call QC Kinetics today, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN.
Diamonds. Everyone loves them, and at Shane Company, we've been experts in the diamond business since 1929. This means we know diamonds better than anyone else. At Shane Company, you can now choose between either a natural or lab-grown diamond. For your engagement ring, diamond studs, or diamond pendant. When it comes to our new lab-grown diamonds, we take the same approach we do for all of our diamonds and apply our same superior standards. We work with the best diamond vendors, people who've perfected the art and science of creating gorgeous diamonds in a lab, with the quality we're known for. Then, we hand-select only the best stones cut by the best diamond cutters. Plus, all our diamonds are eligible for our free lifetime warranty and upgrades. We'll show you our huge selection in every price range and help you select the perfect diamond. No matter what you choose, whether it's a natural diamond or a lab-grown diamond, you can be confident that with Shane Company, you're getting the most beautiful diamond.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
The Ride with JMV.
We'll see if Mike Woodson can get this IU thing going, but here's the problem I had after that Northwestern loss. All right, defense bad, and I certainly wouldn't blame that, even if it is true, on the loss of two players. Because what that does, it tells the rest of your team that, hey, you know what, it's okay. We don't have these two guys. That's why our defense stinks. You don't want that with your team.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Will this be played at the PBR party?
Oh, absolutely. By the way, we have an unnamed, and I want to be clear here because they asked to be anonymous.
Okay.
We have an unnamed, shall I say, donor, I guess, that has offered to offer up a pizza and dining establishment that could host our PBR party.
Let's go! Wow.
Yeah. Must be 21, by the way.
To be fair, donors probably sounds too high and mighty for us.
Yeah, donor. Well, and there may be a price tag. I don't know. That has yet to be confirmed.
Well, you guys have already eaten into half of my potential winnings here coming up. Do I need cross-reference with my wife on this? Pacers get to 30. Oh, yeah, but all that money that was promising, it's actually going to go to a PBR keg. We get 3 of them.
You've earned it after that season if you have to sweat out 30 wins.
This all came about because this morning, just before we get to Scott Agness here, I will tell you that this morning I got the following text from very early this morning, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic, that simply said, hey, Jake, what I want to know here is, as the unofficial, I'm trying to find the text here. I didn't plan this out very well, did I? Okay. The unofficial but official Pacers Fan Association has concluded that Kevin's windfall from his Pacers 30-plus win bet must fund the not-so-imaginary PBR party hosted by the homie JQ at whatever not-so-imaginary venue JQ chooses. This is
homie
official.
JQ.
Signed, the unofficial but official president of the Kevin and Query Pacer Fan 30-plus win windfall bet PBR Party Association, Percy. There we go.
I love that.
Percy's his name?
Yeah,
Percy Harvin?
Let's see. Let me find the last name on Percy. But Percy, again, and I've named him treasurer as well. He's not just president, but he's treasurer as well because he's going to oversee, obviously, the money. Percy Bland.
Certainly getting an invite to the party would be Jake's fellow North Central Panther. That would be Scott Agness. He is with us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. Scott, we've talked, unfortunately, a lot about injuries. It's not something we've done a lot this season, but probably after a game, I would say last night's the most there's been injury conversation for the Pacers this year. Anything further you can add on Myles Turner and or Tyrese Haliburton?
Yeah, nothing. Tyrese obviously leaving the arena in crutches. His left knee, same knee he did have it years ago, so I was tracking that. And then with Myles Turner, just kind of back spasms that popped up or right after the
Scott,
team
we're gonna reset with you because you're giving us some good info and you were cutting in and out a little bit there. Did you catch that left knee a few years ago for Haliburton?
Let's set for this for those that didn't see it. He kind of landed awkwardly, and it was not just the knee, but kind of his elbow wrist, right, in the way he landed.
He got stepped on his right foot by Josh Hartenstein, who's huge. And like you said, Jake, he landed, I'd say, more on the left side. And it was a hard, awkward, twisting fall. His shoe came off. He kind of limped to the locker room. And then, as Rick Carlisle said afterwards, left on crutches. Scott, thanks for getting back with us. Okay, you said Haliburton had a left knee issue a few years ago?
Yeah, I was just saying same knee as he had a bone bruise, hyperextension to that same knee a couple of years ago. And then, as you said, left the arena on crutches, and he'll learn more here today. Team is not practicing, and I'm sure all the focus will be on Haliburton and the other injuries.
Myles, back issues in his career, I obviously the foot stuff the last couple of years. Anything back-related for him?
Not that I could remember off the top of my head. No, he usually has more exterior, meaning foot, ankle, hand, off the top of my head. So that one surprised me a great deal.
I asked this question to Jake earlier, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but considering how it looked, considering Rick Carlisle said we hope it's not serious, if Haliburton is going to miss an extended period of time, 4 weeks from today is the trade deadline, should that influence what the Pacers do at all?
Perhaps a little bit, yeah. But I think the main thing, again, is just the big picture. And it's what you like about this group moving forward. I thought it was interesting post-game last night. Rick said something to the effect of, we're trying to do something very difficult here. That's develop young players and continue to win. So I thought that kind of answered a question a lot of people may have had. About the team's goals or anything like that, about what they're trying to get accomplished here. And they're trying to win, and at the same time, they've set a culture. Now they're trying to keep that culture and have fun doing it. And so I think ultimately it just comes down to what offers are out there. And then again, the big Myles question is, how much would it cost to keep him here?
Scott, in your opinion, let's say Tyrese Haliburton misses extended time. Give me the two guys that we mentioned earlier, Swiss Army knives, that are kind of Swiss Army knives for Indiana that can slide over and play different roles or move around a little bit, that kind of can fill the void. Nobody fills the void of Tyrese Haliburton, but guys that would help soften the blow because of their versatility.
Well, yeah, the good news is they have a lot of depth in the backcourt, almost too much. That's kind of been the problem of trying to feed everyone. The number one guy would obviously be Andrew Nembhard. He's kind of done it all, mostly in a defensive role and a secondary guard off the ball role, but he could certainly take on more of the minutes. We saw last night Andrew and TJ McConnell each playing the entire fourth quarter. So there's a somewhat of a hit right there. And then on top of that, I think you'd hope Duarte gets back into it. He can handle some. Matherin, we haven't really seen him handle the ball, but that's another guy that could see his minutes potentially go up. So they do have the depth in the backcourt.
Yeah, I was saying to Jake earlier, I just think for short-term and long-term, it makes the most sense to me to play Nembhard at point guard. It keeps McConnell with that second unit, which clearly is something like Rick likes, to keep those units together, and then obviously you help Nembhard grow with that starting group as a point guard, which is what he was at Gonzaga. Scott Agness is with us from Fieldhouse Files here on the Payless Liquors hotline. To that point you were making earlier, Scott, about Rick's comments post-game, finding the balance between trying to grow and develop and also win, it was odd to me that James Johnson started. Like, when I saw the when I saw the Myles Turner news, I'm thinking, oh, this would be a good opportunity for Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith to start and play extended minutes. And instead, first time down the floor, it's James Johnson not only starting, but the dude's taking the first shot of the game.
Yeah, so here's what I'm feeling from that. I don't know for sure because I obviously wasn't there and talking with Rick. For one, Jalen was already going to start because Aaron Nesmith was out. So they were going to go back to their previous starting lineup with two bigs, Jalen and Myles. That was the original starting lineup.
Got it.
Then Myles is unable to play because of back spasms. And I think this is, let's have as little disruption as we can. Meaning to your previous point of keeping rotations the same. And I think that's what that was about. It didn't work out. I was not a fan either. I probably would have slotted in Matherin just because the scoring, and they've had success with this four-guard lineup really ever since the last time they played the Knicks a couple or 3 or 4 weeks ago here. So that's what I was expecting. And it's clear they moved on from that and then also did some different things defensively, schematically in that second half, and Johnson didn't return to the floor.
Scott, there was a time, Scott Agness from Fieldhouse Files is our guest on the Payless Liquors hotline. There was a time, probably 2 years ago, and I think you and I have talked about it, where of all people, Goga had some trade value around the league, I think because of the intrigue about him. He hasn't necessarily diminished that value because I don't know how many opportunities he's really gotten, and he's serviceable when he's out there. In terms of like if they wanted to add a second-round pick or just free things up, does he have any value, you think, at all?
I don't know. I don't think so, mainly because he's an expiring contract. That's what, to your point, over the last couple of years, that's where his value would have actually decreased because you would not have had him on a rookie deal and that early control. So he's in a contract year like Myles and is firmly out of the rotation.
I'm not sure you could get a can of PBR for him, to be honest with you, Jake.
I don't disagree, Kevin, but there was, Scott might disagree with me here, but I talked to somebody, and it might have been 2 years ago, that said that of the players on the roster, he was one that people had an intrigue about. I think just because they didn't know he was an unknown commodity.
Yeah, I get the European guys takes a little bit longer,
right?
But yeah. Scott Agness with us, Fieldhouse Files. Scott, it's the first time we've talked with you since the Mark Stein news from over the weekend, and that was, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but basically that the Myles Turner camp has turned down the initial contract extension from the Pacers. And again, I don't know if I have that language 100% right, but we've got a month or 4 weeks from today, the NBA trade deadline. What did you make, if anything, of that news?
Yeah, one last thing, too, on Goga, just with all of that. I think he's a guy that needs 20-plus minutes per game. And so that's the big thing here. And if you're a team that can offer that, then yeah, something would interest me with Goga and giving him an opportunity. In terms of Myles, in this contract extension, renegotiation, does something come out of it? I've not heard directly what Mark had. I don't doubt it by any means. I can just tell you, one, it's a little far out. You're about a month out here, and so generally things don't happen right now. And that's why I laughed after the game last night. Rick Carlisle was saying, "Hey, some of you, I guess Twitter was abuzz with people thinking Myles got traded because he's not playing." I'm sitting there thinking that didn't even actually cross my mind, but he's right, probably. But it's early January. Those things generally don't happen for another month. Where we're at right now, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's good, though, if the two sides are able to start having discussions. Whether there was a formal offer made and a formal rejection, I don't know.
Which do you think is stronger? The Pacers' intent to keep Myles Turner or Myles Turner's openness to staying in Indiana?
I would say the Pacers willing to keep Myles. And I say that just because of all the different things I've listed previously about Myles, his situation, him wanting, like any player, to maximize his contract value in terms of just being his probably last big contract that he'll be able to sign. And then I will say, though, Myles' loyalty to the city and the franchise has not wavered. There's just that factor that this is the first time in his career where he could have the opportunity to pick any franchise to sign with, and so you have to consider that opportunity.
Scott, I enjoyed a piece you had up on Fieldhouse Files. You talked to a scout from around the league and kind of gave a little bit of a insight into what they have observed with the Pacers this season.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. I appreciate it. It was just one of those things. I was like, you know what? I talk to kind of a lot of the same people, especially with the Pacers every single day and such. Let's get an outside voice, see if they're seeing the same type of things. And more than anything, I think of interest to fans is him saying, yeah, when you have something like this, it just clicks, it just works. I can't imagine you do too much at a trade deadline. Teams seek out what the Pacers have right now in terms of team chemistry, and so you don't really want to disrupt that.
Before we let you go, and again, Scott Agness with us, Fieldhouse Files, do you make anything, or do you think it's any sort of optimism that Tyrese Haliburton was originally listed as questionable late third quarter, and then a few minutes later was ruled out? Like, is that a little bit of a positive that it might not be like serious ligament damage?
I don't look into that too much, only because the previous game, TJ McConnell went to the back to the locker room and was ruled out as questionable with that shoulder injury, when after the game Rick was like, yeah, there's no way he was coming back. And then it turns out after further tests it was just kind of a stinger. But so no, I don't look into that. But initially after those injuries, they don't know too much in the first little bit, but then of course doctors are doing, the standard tests. But to your point, no, I did not have an initial takeaway from that. The crutches is ones that suggest swelling and maybe more pain, a bone bruise or something, just off that.
And no practice, right, today? So any update probably comes from a Woj bomb?
Tomorrow before Pacers practice. But yeah, to your point, Pacers visited New York, and for the second straight visit, one of the Pacers sat down with Woj on his podcast. It was Myles last time and Tyrese yesterday.
Pacers, by the way, back in action tomorrow night against Atlanta, and then it is Memphis on Saturday. Both games at the Fieldhouse. Scott, appreciate it. We'll read about it on Fieldhouse Files, all right?
Very well. Thanks, guys.
All right, Scott Agness on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Jake mentioned this earlier, but boy, Chris Duarte cannot throw it in the ocean right now. He is 4 of his last 30.
He just feels like...
And if you want to go a step further, 7 of his last 45.
It feels like not and this is not a knock on him at all, but just he is one guy that if you look at the depth of the Pacers, that his style of play or what he needs to be facilitated in offensively to be in rhythm probably necessitates for him to be more involved as opposed to peripheral. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and him and Benedict Mather in that second unit, those are two dudes that probably want to dominate the ball.
Right. Good way of saying it.
And I think that's a bit difficult. Has not been a good second season for Chris Duarte. Of course, had the ankle injury and missed a lot of time with that. We'll get into the Colts conversation coming up next. Zach Keefer joins us in 10 minutes.
When you hear Diamonds Direct, it's not just a catchy name designed to give the illusion of value. Our name is who we really are. Diamonds Direct was started by diamond cutters a quarter of a century ago. At our very core is a commitment to cut out the middleman and deliver extreme value in exquisite diamonds. Today, that's more true than ever, with our direct access to diamonds straight from the mines. Diamonds that we then cut and polish. Exquisite diamonds up to 15 and 20 carats in all shapes and sizes. It's an advantage other jewelers only dream of. By overseeing the entire process, we know for a fact Diamonds Direct is truly direct. So this year, as value becomes more important than ever, rest assured that Diamonds Direct's unique status in the world diamond market guarantees you the best no middleman direct importer price, period. And even with this extreme value promise, at Diamonds Direct you still get an unbeatable selection, transparent education, a luxurious shopping experience, superior customer service, no compromises. It's not having a cool name or clever advertising, it's the truth. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with Autosave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $38.99. Go farther with better fuel efficiency. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
The football playoffs are here, and nothing beats seeing your favorite team live. Not only does Vivid Seats have great NFL ticket prices, they're also the official ticketing partner of ESPN. And with Vivid Seats Rewards, when you buy 10 tickets, you get the 11th free. Download the app or visit vividseats.com today. Vivid Seats. Life happens live. Receive a reward credit equal to the average price of the 10 tickets purchased, excluding taxes, fees, and processing costs. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions.
Attention. Per the current government mandate, U.S.-based insurers are now required to cover at-home COVID testing kits with no out-of-pocket fees to you. If you have a current insurance plan, you are eligible to receive up to 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to you each month absolutely free as long as the government mandate is in effect. Just visit yourfreetest.net to register now. That's yourfreetest.net to receive your tests shipped to you at no cost. Go to yourfreetest.net. Medicare insured or not eligible.
Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Affinity is the leader in testosterone and hormone replacement therapy, and I got to tell you, I see why. Since I started a testosterone replacement program with Affinity, my energy, mental focus, drive, everything is up, and the physical benefits are amazing. Check them out at feelgreatindy.com. Guys, you can improve the way you look, the way you feel. You can build muscle and lose fat. Affinity will give you the roadmap. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
Basements get a bad rap, probably because so many of them are wet, leaky, and musty. Michaelis is putting an end to the horror show. Their time-tested waterproofing systems eliminate and prevent water issues. Damp and moldy becomes clean and healthy. They have a lot of homeowners enjoying their basements again. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
I stopped smoking with Mark Patrick's hypnosis when nothing else worked. 1 year later, my wife Michelle and I attended the Mark Patrick Weight Loss Hypnosis Seminar. In 2 months, lost 43 pounds, and she lost 18 pounds.
And we feel great.
Seminars January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville. Weight loss 5:30, stop smoking 8 p.m. Or January 21st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss 11 a.m., stop smoking 2 p.m. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We don't actually do a lot of small talk during the break. Everybody kind of resets. And then, Mark, you broke the silence by saying you had a question for us.
Yeah, so this was posed from a listener yesterday in a DM we received on our show Twitter page. I said, that's actually...
Is your mic on, Mark, or am I just...
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
My headset's just having issues. Okay.
So, yeah, he's Dustin sent me a DM on our show Twitter page about a possible... He said he prefaced it with, crazy thought, or is this genius? And this is regarding the Colts... possibilities of trading.
Oh, sounds like Jake. Crazy thought.
I know. Well, he actually prefaced this. He didn't just say it out loud.
Got it.
So Dustin said, crazy thought, or is this genius? Trade back in the draft to get multiple first-round picks and then draft Stetson Bennett in later rounds. Would you rather draft a top QB like Young or Stroud or a top offensive lineman and tight end, maybe Mayer or Bowers and Bennett? So would you rather have a top offensive lineman and tight end and draft Stetson Bennett or get a top QB and have to trade up?
Not a fan of the idea.
Here's a better way of asking it, and I'm not saying that there's a definitive answer here. Is it easier to have a great offensive line make an is it easier to have a great offensive line make an average quarterback serviceable, or have a great quarterback make an average offensive line serviceable?
You definitely need offensive line help. Like, I don't want to diminish that, but Jake, you pay quarterbacks 30-some million for a reason. They're supposed to lift everyone else. You don't pay an offensive line. I mean, look at what the Colts just had. They highest paid offensive line this past season. That didn't lift this football team. So I am not a fan of that. For what it's worth, Brock Bowers does have to go back to Georgia for another year. Yeah, I am not a fan on Stetson Bennett being your franchise quarterback. Doesn't he want to go to law school? Didn't I hear that?
He's got the name for it.
Yeah, Stetson Bennett. Second year.
I mean, I could see a team taking a flyer on him, but I don't know if you want him to be your...
I mean, what did we say?
He's your answer after all that?
Yeah, I think on Tuesday I threw out to you guys... over under Stetson Bennett being drafted by the halfway through the fourth round. I mean, do you want your franchise quarterback to be around that area?
With the 258th pick,
he's fast as hell, though.
New England Patriots select Stetson Bennett, quarterback, University of Georgia.
That's for sure happening.
I get the idea, but no.
The scenario that you played out there, to me, is plausible if you go with Hendon Hooker like in the third round or the second round, and that's about it. More often than not,
Chris Ballard probably loves that idea.
I know that people are going to throw Tom Brady's name at me, and I get that, but more often than not, quarterbacks that fall past round 3, there's a reason they fell past round 3, right? Yeah, now, there was a fella that adamantly argued with me for like a year straight that wanted to bet, but he never actually ponied and pushed in on the wager, but was steadfast to me because of my Clemson fandom that Jacob Eason would be a better pro quarterback with a longer career than Trevor Lawrence.
Whoa. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, he's struggling on that one.
Have we seen enough now to call that election?
I think so.
Okay.
Probably could have called it a while ago.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I know I've mentioned the AFC quarterbacks, the NFC quarterbacks. Obviously, Brady was after round 4. Is Dak Prescott, was he round 4?
I thought he's third.
Gino,
he was Dak Prescott was 4 or 5.
Geno was round 2. Daniel Jones, the top 10 pick. Kirk Cousins was, 3? San Francisco, I guess they all kind of run together with all of them starting a handful of games. Jalen Hurts round 2. So, yeah, I think you're really looking for the outlier there.
I feel like that's another, if you do go that route, that would be another like kicking the can down the road because it's not really like a legit answer. You're just kind of like, well, we're seeing what we can do here, and
an experiment.
Yeah.
Again, the latest on the Colts head coaching search. We'll chat more. Zach Keefer coming up next. Just a brief rundown. Bubba Ventrone interviewed yesterday. It's being reported that Friday you will have Raheem Morris, that is the DC for the Rams, Ben Johnson, that's the Brad Stevens vibes I get. He's the OC from the Lions, and then Saturday, Shane Steichen with the Eagles. So things appearing to ramp up on the Colts head coaching search front. Zach Keefer will talk more about that next.
It has no beginning.
The start of something special right here, man. Let's go.
And no end.
Look, you got to get your team ready to play.
It is a constant.
Get a rhythm going.
Through every season.
Come back again.
It is always Colts season. Firing, hiring, free agency, the combine, the schedule, the draft, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, kickoff. The offseason questions is a season to be answered for this Colts team. The best Colts coverage is on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Need new tires? Skip the long appointments and bad coffee. With Go Mobile Tires Indy, order tires online and have them installed at your home or office. GoMobileIndy.com. We come to you.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Okay, Julie, have you made your decision?
Oh, wow, I have. This was a tough choice. I had such a great time with Brad, but I am gonna have to pick Geico.
Interesting.
Geico is just, sorry, I'm getting emotional, been by my side, for so long with great customer service.
I thought we had something, Julie.
I'm sorry, Brad. Geico is just always there for me whenever I need them.
It's an insurance company.
No, it's an insurance partner, Brad.
For the choice you can always rely on, go to geico.com.
Hey, JMV, starting a new year can sometimes be overwhelming. Let Forum Credit Union help by giving you easy ways to save for all your financial needs in 2023. Whether you're looking for a high savings rate, want to be rewarded for regular weekly savings, or like the convenience of automating savings with every debit card purchase, Forum has great options to help you get ahead. Visit forumcu.com today or visit a branch location.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB, WIBC HD3 W228CX, Indianapolis. The Pacers welcome the Atlanta Hawks to the Fieldhouse tomorrow evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We'll get in the Colts conversation coming up in a few with Zach Keefer from The Athletic. Jake, obviously, a lot of attention around Tyrese Haliburton and his left elbow, left knee injury from last night. Outside of that, though, this is kind of a fun back-to-back for the Pacers this weekend. Hawks at home tomorrow night, Grizzlies Saturday night. The Grizzlies have won 8 in a row. And again, if I were making a list of who I would pay to watch in professional sports, I think Ja Morant would be near the top.
Totally. And to be fair, even though the team's not playing very well, Trae Young would be one as well. He's pretty fun to watch.
He was out due to illness last night, so we'll see about tomorrow night. And, of course, Memphis has got all the other Indiana ties on their roster. Okay, rundown on the Colts head coaching search, where we're at right now. Bubba Ventrone interviewed yesterday. That is the first official interview for the Colts. It is being reported that Giro Avero, that is the defensive coordinator of the Broncos, will be interviewing today. Tomorrow on the slate, Raheem Morris, Rams defensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator, and then Saturday, Shane Steichen, Eagles offensive coordinator.
May I ask a really dumb question?
Sure.
I think maybe, excuse me?
I said sure, always.
Thank you. I think this might have already taken place. And I apologize for the absurdity of even asking this, but did Jeff Saturday already have an official interview, or is that just one of those that's kind of like?
Yeah, he had 8 games. Did you not see him?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? That's my point.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying there. I'm under the impression the Colts are announcing when these interviews are complete.
Right.
And so far, they've only announced Bubba Ventrone as complete. So I don't know if there was some sort of process for Saturday within the building of, hey, I don't know, exit interviews or what. Do they feel like they need to get these guys interviewed right now? Like in Steichen's case, he's got a game next week. So you got to interview him right now, or you can't interview him once the Eagles start playing playoff games. I don't know if there's more of an urgency from the Colts to say, well, no one is calling about Jeff Saturday. We can probably wait to interview him. Like, let's interview these guys that are being sought after in other places. I mean, Steichen, Avero, Morris, Johnson, all these guys are interviewing in several places, Carolina, Houston, Arizona. So I think that has more to do with we haven't seen Saturday.
I wonder
yet.
and I'm sure it depends on who's doing it, what a head coaching interview sounds like. You know,
I'd be always curious about that.
Okay, it's 4th and 3. Would you go for it, or is it more like, so if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? You know, I mean, like what sort of questions do they ask there?
Well, if Jake was sitting in on interviews, we certainly know that the tree question would be high top. Do you know Indiana's state bird?
It's the cardinal. That's a fairly household knowledge.
Would you like to come to my PBR party?
That is a very important.
But peony, that would get some people.
That would. Again, that's a seasonal flower. See,
you want to bring Zach Keefer in? I'm having some headset issues. I'm going to try and regroup with him.
What are you doing over there? Your headset's falling apart. Your mic stand breaks.
You know, it's one of the. I think we
basis.
all have been here with cords in our life. You know how you got to get the cord in the right, perfect spot to like charge.
Do people wear corduroy anymore?
I used to have some corduroy pants I took from my dad. They were great.
That was always tricky during Duck, Duck, Goose in kindergarten. Everybody knew who it was if you had on the corduroy pants. Joining us now, I'm sure thrilled to be doing so. Don't you remember when you used to play Duck, Duck, Goose or 7-Up? Did you ever play 7-Up?
Thumbs up, 7-Up?
Yeah, there was the one person that had to be the secret that go around and tap, and you knew if it was somebody that was wearing corduroy pants because when they walked.
Can we just get to Zach Keefer?
Okay.
Headset's back on.
Zach Keefer now joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Of course, you can read Zach's work at The Athletic covering the Colts. And, Zach, the year is over, but it seems like things are just starting to warm up in terms of the coverage here because now everything gets busy. We were just running down the names of candidates. I guess two-part question for you. The first would be, was there anybody whose name came out that the Colts will interview that surprised you? And is there anybody that you're still waiting for their name to come up because they've been rumored but we haven't heard anything official?
Well, that was a hard pivot, Jake, from corduroy and from Duck, Duck, Goose. But sure,
well, that's what I do. That's what I do. I got a lot of swivel in these hips.
Yeah, a couple of things on that front. I'm not surprised by anybody that they're interviewing that's on their list right now. The name that's not on there is the surprise, Jim Harbaugh, so far. I don't get that, and I've tried to get some information. It's hard to get. I asked Chris Ballard point blank on Tuesday, and he wouldn't discuss the candidates. But I will say this on the coaching search. It's going to take some time, as Ballard mentioned, but the vibe I've sort of gotten from people in the building are, okay, if Ballard's going to be back, which he is, let's let him run the coaching search. Let's let him pick the coach. Let's let him draft the quarterback, and let's just see where this goes. But obviously you guys know as well as anybody that's not that simple, and that's not how it's going to go. And I think one thing I took away very clearly from Tuesday and from conversations I've had over the last couple of months, if indeed that Jeff Saturday gets this full-time head coaching job, it will not be because Chris Ballard recommended him for the job. That's pretty obvious to me. That'll be because Jim Irsay wanted him to stay, and I feel like that just sows more division within the franchise. If it's not the GM picking the coach, doesn't that just kind of leave Chris Ballard in no man's land, further in no man's land where he's been the last couple months?
Zach, let's focus there for a second. Again, Zach Keefer's with us from The Athletic. You know, if you talk with us every Thursday, and we greatly appreciate that, of course. A couple Thursdays ago, I would have put it probably at a coin flip that Jeff Saturday gets this job permanently. I don't think I'm there anymore. I think I've softened a little bit on that. Having said that, Jim Irsay's been wooed before in interviews, Chuck Pagano being one of them. That, I think, would be the way that Jeff Saturday could re-enter this legit candidate search.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, Jeff's good in front of a TV camera. He's good in front of us.
Right.
He's good in front of players. And that's a real thing, but this is really telling, and I asked a lot of players this, and I asked Chris Ballard this. What did Jeff do to make the team better? Like, what did he do well as a coach? And in some cases, with Matt Ryan, there was a long pause, and he said something to the effect of, he's a good leader. He's a good motivator. He showed up to work every day. I asked a lot of players, and I got similar responses. Now, I will say that Shaq Leonard said he wants Saturday to be the coach. But for the most part, and this was Ballard as well, I think he said Jeff got better. Well, the team didn't get better. Anyone out there watching this show the last 8 weeks saw that. But you're right, and I think Jeff Saturday could be a pretty impressive interview if you just take him at what he's saying. But the reality is this team got horrendously worse over the last 8 games, and my sense is the same as yours. What was maybe a stronger candidate in early December isn't quite as strong right now, even in Irsay's eyes. Now, I'm not speaking for Irsay because nobody knows what he's thinking at this very moment besides him, but the shine is dimmed a little bit on Jeff Saturday. There's just no escaping the fact that this team got worse in so many ways. They weren't competitive down the stretch, and they were historically collapsing week after week. I mean, they can't just lean on these excuses that everything was Frank's fault and everything that Frank set up was a mess. Like, I'm just not buying that. This was an organizational failure, and there's nothing Jeff Saturday did as a coach to make the team better. Was it an uphill climb? Absolutely, it was bad when he got here, but I just can't buy any tangible reasons why he would be a better candidate than almost anyone else on their list.
Zach, I want to circle back to something you touched on there about the process of hiring a coach. How common do you believe it is? I mean, I know that Jim Irsay hired Tony Dungy, and that was with Bill Polian here, who was, Bill Polian for the most part seemingly had autonomy, but Chris Ballard made no bones about the fact that he will conduct interviews and then make a recommendation, but Jim Irsay will make the hire and will make the selection. Do you believe that's common in the National Football League, or do you believe that most franchises, whoever is hired to be the president and or general manager, would be the one trusted to make that decision?
No, it's not usually like that, Jake, and it hasn't usually been like that here. Jim Irsay's always said that he hires his GM to manage the team, and he hires his coach to coach the team. And only in very rare situations, hiring Tony Dungy, cutting Peyton Manning, drafting Andrew Luck, did he step in. Now, obviously, that's changed over the last 12 months. But the reality is the first time Chris Ballard led a coaching search, that was all Chris Ballard. It was Josh McDaniels. That was his pick. It was not Jim Irsay's pick. Now, I don't know if Jim had another pick, but Chris was zeroed in on McDaniels, and Irsay didn't get involved until the second interview when they went out to Boston and sat down with McDaniels' family. So the second time around, when they landed on Frank Reich, Jim Irsay stepped in and had a little bit more of a say. This is different than they've done it in the past. Ryan Grigson hired Chuck Pagano. Ryan Grigson wanted Chuck Pagano to be his head coach. So a lot of owners will step back and let the GM pick their coach. A lot of owners don't make football decisions at all. So it's a delicate way of doing things. And I think in some instances, like Tony Dungy's hire here, it's absolutely the right move. But over the last couple of years, and I asked Chris Ballard this question point blank on Tuesday, I said, has Jim Irsay made decisions that have hurt this franchise? And I totally understand that that's not something Chris can answer in front of a camera. And he said no. He said he's passionate. He wants the team to be great. All of these things can be true. But I think anybody looking at this objectively has to say that some of the moves this team has made at the request of the owner have hurt this franchise. But then again, it also helped them get the 4th overall pick.
I thought it was interesting, Zach, and I've said this to others, as you know, that sometimes maybe I'm guilty of overthinking things, but I want you to tell me if I'm guilty of overthinking this. Chris Ballard was asked in the press conference, and it might have been by you, somebody asked the question of, like, are you content with the level of voice you have or something along those lines? And he paused and said, I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And when he said, I know where you're going with that, I, maybe overthinking it, I took that as a Freudian, yeah, I agree with you. In other words, you don't even need to say what you are insinuating. I know what you're insinuating because I know it's true. That's how I took that. Your thoughts?
I think you're hitting it. Like, let's think about this. Like, for everybody out there that's listening to your show right now that watched the press conference in early November when they hired Jeff Saturday, what did Chris Ballard's body language and face tell you? He was not on board with that decision. And everything I wrote last Friday in my long story in The Athletic about sort of the chaos behind the scenes of this season was proven right by what Chris Ballard said on Tuesday. He said, look, you know, he didn't say he wasn't on board with the Jeff Saturday decision, but he essentially did by saying, I voiced my concern. Chris Ballard has screwed up plenty of things in this city with this team, but he did not hire a TV analyst to come coach his team with 8 games to go. Like, that just did not happen. We know who made that decision, and I think the question was a fair one. And then I asked him again later in that press conference, and this was another telling moment. I said, has your desire to be here wavered at all over the last couple of months? And I'm not saying Ballard is, look, his hands are dirty in this. We don't need to get into that, the roster moves, the decisions, all that. But the fact that he's being usurped by his boss and Jim Irsay is overstepping and essentially making moves that are hurting the team that Ballard built even further, I think it's a completely fair question. And what he did was he paused for 3 or 4 seconds, which is an eternity in one of these press conferences, and he looked right at me, and he was almost getting emotional. And he said, no, I love being here. I don't want to be anywhere else. That's probably true. But I think he's had some tough moments this year, and I think he's had some moments that have made him think, because this is not what he signed up for. Any general manager, when you sign up to run a team, you sign up with the understanding that you're going to be running the team. And Ballard, remember, turned down a couple chances to interview, probably at places he would have got the GM job in 15 and 16, because he didn't believe in the vision of the owner, and he didn't believe that he would get the time needed to build the right way. Now, he certainly had the time here. I understand that, but I just thought it was another telling moment. And like you said, Jake, sometimes you have to see things for what the answer is as opposed to listening to what they're saying.
Zach Keefer from The Athletic. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Zach, I thought there were 2 very different press conferences, Monday from Jeff Saturday, Tuesday from Chris Ballard. In their own different ways, I think they're extremely smooth operators, borderline politician at times, behind the mic. What did you make of what Saturday had to say on Monday and then Ballard on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I was talking with JMV about this a couple of days ago. Like, on Monday, for the most part, I just heard excuses. Like, that's what I heard from Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, I was saying that was Saturday, just to clarify.
Yeah, sorry, Saturday on Monday. It's still confusing when we have to do that, but we talked to the coach on Monday. I'll clear it up that way. And I heard excuses. I heard it was bad when I got here, and it wasn't going to get any better. And if you give me a chance with my own staff, it'll be better, even though there is no evidence to support that. And that tone has changed a lot with Jeff Saturday over the last couple of weeks. If you guys have noticed, we've heard this line more and more. Well, you're not firing a coach mid-season unless it's bad. Like, we didn't hear that in November. We heard, you can judge me on my wins and losses. Well, and now he doesn't want to be judged on his wins and losses because that doesn't feel relevant to him. And that's just what I took away from Monday. It wasn't a good look for Jeff Saturday. And I don't know what he says in his interview that's going to be really convincing. I just really don't. Other than the fact that, and we all know this, Jim Irsay really likes this guy. And I don't know how much the last 8 weeks have changed that. But conversely, a day later, Chris Ballard, you can say politician, sure, I'm on board with that a little bit, but there was nothing else for him to do besides sit up there and own this disaster. And it wasn't all on him, that there was bad coaching throughout the year. Irsay stepped in, but a large chunk of it was on the roster that he built and the misses he had and the mistakes he made. And he sat up there and he owned it. And I truly believe that he feels awful about how bad it's been. I think that's genuine, and I think he's determined to fix it. And I think there's a lot of people in the building that want him to have the chance to fix it, starting with finding that quarterback. But two very different press conferences in terms of accountability.
Zach Keefer's our guest. He's on the Payless Liquors hotline. He writes for The Athletic. Zach, we know, and I don't know whether or not he will end up getting hired there or somewhere else, but we know that Frank Reich has now interviewed in Carolina for the Panthers job. If Frank Reich immediately lands on his feet as a head coach in the National Football League, is that an indictment on what the rest of the league thinks of Chris Ballard or the Colts in general?
I think it's an indictment on what the league knows about what happened this season and what's happened over the last couple of years. The league knows. People in this league, the agents, the coaches, the owners, the executives, they know what happened in November here. They know whose call it was to fire Frank Reich and to hire Jeff Saturday. And they also know that, while Frank Reich screwed some things up, starting with the trade for Carson Wentz, and the Matt Ryan trade didn't work out either, the dude had 4 different quarterbacks his first 4 years and had a top 10 offense 3 times. Now, I'm not Frank Reich's agent. I'm not here to argue for his credentials, but he did a pretty good job amid a whirlwind of a run. And I think if you give the guy stability, then you're going to find out what kind of coach he is. But I think there's a lot of attractive qualities about what Frank Reich can do with an offense if you give him the same quarterback a couple of years in a row and a little bit of stability. Because really, at the end of the day, in late October, his feet were taken out from under him. He was told to play this quarterback who he didn't think he was ready, and he would have gone to Nick Foles before Sam Ehlinger, but he didn't have that choice. And I don't care if it's the right decision or the wrong decision about who to play. The fact that you're not letting the coach play the quarterback he thinks he should be playing, that's just bad ball. That's just bad football. So trust me, the rest of the league is not naive to that, and it wouldn't stun me if Frank gets the job in Carolina.
It feels to me, Zach, like if the Colts want to get somebody who is an established head coach, that probably, and I'm going to put Jeff Saturday in that mix, even though it was interim level, but Harbaugh and Saturday would be their only 2 options, and I don't even know if Harbaugh is going to be in play, but Harbaugh has a relationship with the franchise. But I don't know which it is, the uncertainty at the quarterback position or the uncertainty of the amount of involvement of the owner that would cause a veteran coach to have pause about Indianapolis. But it feels to me like that's the case. Do you think the Colts job has question marks that are big enough to scare away an established coach?
100%. It's the latter, Jake. It's the latter. It's the second thing you mentioned. It's the meddling. It's the worrisome about being able to do their job. And Nick Underhill covers the Saints down in New Orleans, and he reported last night that 5 teams with an opening, all 5, have reached out to Sean Payton about setting up an interview. To date, Sean Payton only has 3 interviews set up. Let's think about why. Sean Payton has been very, very honest and clear about this the last couple of weeks. What he feels is most important is the ownership, GM, coach collaboration. And he's not going to go somewhere where he doesn't get to make the decisions on his roster. And for better or for worse, that's how he sees it. And I don't think the first part scares a lot of coaches away, Jake. Not as much as you think, the not having a franchise quarterback. Like, if you're going to a team that needs a coach, chances are they don't have a great quarterback. Chances are there's some instability at that most important position. And the fact that they have a 4th overall pick helps. And the other thing is guys like Jim Harbaugh, and I'm just speculating here, but these guys don't shy away from challenges. Like, if you're going to Denver, you have a quarterback issue because you have Russell Wilson for God knows how long at God knows how much money, right? That's a quarterback problem because he's terrible. And then secondly, if you go to Indianapolis, you don't have a quarterback, but you also have the means to correct that this offseason. So I don't think the roster stuff scares these guys away because they don't think like that. They don't think about failure. They think about how they're going to make it work. But in order to do that, they need to have the chance to do it their way. And I think that's what scares guys away. And I think that's a very real thing. And I think that's going to be brought up. If I'm a coach interviewing for this Colts job, I'm asking Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay directly, who's making the decisions? And can I play the quarterback I want to play?
One thing on Sean Payton, and I have no idea what the Saints are asking for him, but I just don't think the Colts are in a position to trade a first-round pick for a coach. Like right. I think at 4 overall, and I get it, you obviously need a coach and certainly need a quarterback too, but I don't know. It seems like maybe if you're in Arizona or if you're at Denver or if you're these other teams that have some sort of a quarterback potentially that you could go with, I think they're in a better situation. Right now, I just don't think the Colts can afford to give up that number 4 pick. Again, Zach Keefer from The Athletic. Busy offseason underway for the Colts. Interview yesterday with Bubba Ventrone. Sounds like some more coming up today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Zach, thanks for all the weekly segments with us every Thursday, man.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
That's Zach Keefer right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. What would be an asking price for Sean Payton? Like, what do the Saints consider realistic?
What did I realized a generation ago, what did the Colts give up to get Bill Polian as their president?
Well, I was thinking, was it Parcells or Belichick that got traded?
There you go. I think it was Parcells, wasn't it? I believe it was Parcells.
Try and find that. Gruden was traded too.
Yeah, Gruden would have been from Oakland to Tampa, right? I mean, probably compensation Al Davis got for John Gruden. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and $8 million in cash.
Jeez.
Wow. I mean, I would guess I'm in the minority here. I think Sean Payton's a fine coach. I don't think he's like a franchise changer. Do you?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And again, you don't have the franchise changer at quarterback. So
right.
That's the issue that I think you run into. I'm looking up the Belichick compensation here. The Jets sought compensation and received it in the form of a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick and a seventh-round pick.
Wow.
While giving back a fifth and a seventh. So pretty much they got a first.
And a fourth.
And, the fourth and fifth, I guess, somewhat cancel each other out.
I mean, that's a lot.
And at the time, Belichick didn't have, that was 2000. It's not like Belichick had, anything on the resume outside of just that stint.
The Colts aren't in a position to trade for them. They have too many holes on their roster to be given up draft compensation.
Agreed.
I also think.
And again, I don't think Payton wants to come here either.
Other than Harbaugh or Saturday, I think Jim Irsay, I'm still going to say it, I think it's really important to him to get guys that he discovered. Jeff Saturday was an outside-the-box hire because what did Irsay say? Like, listen, you folks need to understand, like, I know football. I have instinct. I have, I just know these things. I think that stuff's really important.
Well, as of now, Jake Saturday's the only candidate that sniffs that.
Well, but the rest of them, though, I guess Raheem Morris has been a head coach. But like Ben Johnson, some of the names that we've seen, I'm saying, are guys that are...
Like, are you saying Colts connection?
No.
Like okay. Leslie Frazier would qualify into that group?
What I'm saying is I do think that he would, unless it is somebody that has a direct tie that he has relationships with, I'm talking about Jim Irsay, I think he likes the idea of young guys that are getting their chance for the very first time as a head coach with the Indianapolis Colts, because then, if it works out, Jim Irsay is the savant that discovered them.
So you think he goes that path as opposed to we've gone coordinator hire each of the last 2. We need to go with someone with head coaching experience.
I would think what you just said seems to be the logical route, but I don't know that when it comes to Jim Irsay, that logical route is ever necessarily the one that you lean towards.
No, very accurate. The route of rare air.
That's right. Someone who is in the upper quartile of upper quartiles.
Pop quiz in a few.
Knows how to make sausage.
317-239-1070. It was Michael Jordan at the press conference on Tuesday when Chris Ballard sat down, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of felt honored to be in.
Yeah.
That's sort
should have been.
Same room as him. Let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
In college basketball last night, Indiana State over in Terre Haute, dropping 69-61 to Southern Illinois. That is the first loss in the MoVal for the Trees. They are now 13-5 overall. Southern Illinois at 13-5 as well, 5-2 in Missouri Valley play. Bradley over Evansville, 91-46. But the big one we talked about most of the morning, Penn State over Indiana, 85-66. The Hoosiers are reeling, backpedaling quickly now, 1-4 in the Big Ten. They are 10-6 overall. They have gone from 13th in the country to 13th in the Big Ten. Mike Woodson afterwards.
Well, I got to manage it. We got some young guys. Our two veterans are sitting on the side, and they're not coming through that door anytime soon. So, I'm going to have to manage it. Our guys are a little down right now, and they should be. They got smacked in the face tonight. And, my thing is we're not competing at all. And that's on me. I got to get us competing harder and stronger, and we're not doing that. We was awful in guarding. We had a good game plan going in. And we half of the threes, we're right there with a hand and hoping that they miss instead of just getting into the ball and making them put it down.
It's January 12th, Jake, and I have no ounce of confidence that Indiana will make the tournament. Again, they have allowed at least 80 in their last 5 games against high major teams, and it's not like the Big Ten gauntlet is anything that we saw coming out of the gate. Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State. 1-4 in those 5. Haven't played Purdue, haven't played Michigan State, haven't played Wisconsin.
The last 2,
haven't played Illinois.
I realized Northwestern ended up being a 1-point game, but they were never in that game.
Yeah, that wasn't very competitive.
Right.
And again, if you want to hear it, we talked about it earlier, the excuse making for the injuries, I cannot go there. You got enough talent on the roster to not get blown out by 20 in Happy Valley. It's injury watch for the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Haliburton leaves last night late in the third quarter, left elbow, left knee on crutches, leaving Madison Square Garden. It was a very awkward fall, trying to attempt like a reverse left-handed layup. Josh Hartenstein for the Knicks, big dude, 7-footer, 250-some pounds, fell on, or I should say stepped on, Haliburton's right foot. Actually, shoe came off. But again, the injuries, left knee, left elbow, and left MSG on crutches. No practice today for the Pacers ahead of their back-to-back Friday and Saturday, but any Haliburton update will obviously have a ton of attention for him. Myles Turner, back spasms just before tip-off, and all of a sudden was ruled out. They didn't have Aaron Nesmith or O'Shea Brissett either. Pacers got down 25 early. Jake, that was a furious comeback, though. I mean, it was a wild. Buddy Hield hit some just stupid shots. Benedict Mathurin rebounded nicely.
Buddy Hield kind of took a stupid one towards the end of the game as well. But
he had hit a couple stupid ones that probably led to taking that last one there. Goga was actually making a couple of plays, and then at times he kind of looked like he had escaped from the zoo, I thought, out there, just kind of doing his own thing.
Did they have like an all points bulletin on that? We have an escaped Goga.
Yeah,
Do not try to feed it if you see him. Don't play hero.
The walrus exhibit's been closed for a while, the zoo, and I thought for a second there that maybe he had escaped from that. They cut it to 2 at one point, but Jalen Brunson made some plays late. 119-113, the Pacers lose that one.
Gosh, do we have anything else to talk about here?
We can probably recap Colts interviews to round out the show.
Okay, so go ahead with those interviews that have already taken place and are set to do so here.
Bubba Ventrone yesterday, special teams coordinator, being reported today that Ejiro Avero, that is the defensive coordinator from the Broncos.
Sounds like an Italian sports car, doesn't it?
Born in the United Kingdom, Ejiro Avero. He's interviewing today. Raheem Morris, defense coordinator for the Rams. Ben Johnson, offense coordinator for the Lions, reportedly for tomorrow. And then Saturday would be Shane Steichen, OC of the Eagles. So things about to pick up early in the head coach interview process. It is time for the pop quiz. As I do every time with the pop quiz, I look at the answers before the questions, and the answers all look relevant.
So, again, nothing about like the 1917 Red Sox or something along those lines?
Yeah, no. Cy Young's stepniece is not on the on the pop quiz here. Give us a call, 317-239-1070, Jiffy Lube oil change for the pop quiz.
Questions about youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit organization, develops better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband, and he lost weight, and his cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend lost 20 pounds her first 2 months.
What are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed for only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late night eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. Seminars Thursday, January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville. Weight loss seminar 5:30, stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. And Saturday, January 21st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss seminar 11 a.m., stop smoking seminar 2 p.m. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
Hey there, it's Jake Query for the Good Feet Store of Indiana. 2 locations, one in Greenwood and then, of course, at 82nd and Dean in Clearwater. I love the Good Feet Store because of their 3-step process that has helped me become pain-free when it comes to my feet. By that 3-step process, what I mean is, got a box from them that has 3 inserts in it, 3 pair of inserts, I should say. One for my everyday shoes, one for when I go running, and then one for just your lounge around shoes around the house. Those inserts have taken the pressure points off of my feet and kind of balanced things out where my plantar fasciitis has become a thing of the past. It's an all-American made product with the Good Feet Store, and it comes with a lifetime warranty. They are committed to making sure that you are pain-free. That's what I love about the Good Feet Store. When you go in there, you're going to get personal interaction with the staff that's going to go ahead and just do an imprint of your foot, find out exactly where your feet are bothering you, and get you those inserts out the door and getting you taking that first step, no pun intended, towards a pain-free and easier lifestyle. I love the results I've gotten from the Good Feet Store. I am confident you would be happy with the same results for you. You can always give them a call at 800-639-3338. I'm assuming that most of you don't have a pen and paper and thus are not writing down 800-639-3338. So if you can't remember 800-639-3338, check them out online at goodfeetindy.com.
Hopefully, you'll never have a house or business fire. But if you do, hopefully, you'll never forget this name, Michaelis. They can be there before that lump in your throat goes away. In fact, they're the reason it goes away. Over 35 years of helping people recover from faulty wiring, lightning strikes, or that unattended pot of pasta on the stove. Michaelis crews often roll in before the fire hoses are rolled up. Their proven process of water extraction, smoke removal, and content storage will calm your nerves. Then their talented craftsmen will rebuild your home and restore your spirits. That starts by being your advocate with the insurance company. You'll find Michaelis doesn't just feel for you, they work for you. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
The Ride with JMV.
It seems like, man, all these young dudes, we got to ride around tonight. We got to go ahead and get some draft capital. I've been all too familiar over these recent years of losing, of sucking, of having to be negative day after day. I can't lie to you. Coming on here and throwing a lot of love at the blue and gold makes this guy sitting here 3 until 6 feel really good.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with Kevin and Query. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
So I bring this up in relation to a pop quiz question. The over-under on wild card teams to win this weekend. So you obviously have 6 of them. Dolphins, Ravens, Chargers, Seahawks, Giants, Cowboys. The over-under is 2.5 to win this weekend. Where are you guys going there? Dolphins, Ravens, Chargers, Seahawks, Giants, Cowboys. Over 2.5, under 2.5.
Going under. I'll take Chargers.
I'll go over.
Jake Query's going over.
Chargers and Giants are
Jake,
the two I see.
turn your mic on.
Sorry. Chargers, Giants, Cowboys.
Boy, I think the Cowboys are going in the wrong direction at the wrong time.
Well, yeah, who are they playing?
The Bucks.
Come on.
Okay.
That's my point. I mean, I'm saying, do you really think Tampa...
I think we got to lay a little wager, you two, on this, because that'll be the Monday Nighter.
Now, I do realize that...
Six-pack of PBR.
I realize that you can't...
Deal.
You can't rule out Tom Brady. I mean, I get it. I totally
Not
get
only
it.
will the Cowboys lose, but Mike McCarthy will be out of a job.
Okay.
And Sean Payton will be in Dallas?
I don't know if it'll be Sean Payton, but Mike McCarthy will be out of job.
Feels pretty confident about this.
We get to suck on that all week.
And that's what he'll have to do after that loss.
Okay.
I mean, come on. You got to provide a little context for our listening
Okay.
audience.
Jerry
and
Jones
hopefully
talking
everyone's
about the loss to the
dropped their kids
Commanders.
off at school.
Miami...
It's very innocuous.
Miami, who just posted an ad on Craigslist for a quarterback, has no chance, right?
Baltimore, you'd classify in that category as well?
I would say Baltimore's chances are diminishing, although they at least have some stability at the backup position if Lamar Jackson can't.
And their defense is
Hundley's
played better.
banged up.
But Hundley's banged up too. Yeah.
Their defense is played better.
What about the Seahawks 49ers? NFC West?
The 49ers will roll.
Slugfest? No?
I think the 49ers are the team to beat in the NFC right now.
Plus 400 for one of the wildcard teams to make it to the Super Bowl. If anyone's feeling a little frisky on that.
Frisky.
That's relevant to a pop quiz question. 317-239-1070. Jake Query, number 1 through 8.
We'll go with number 6.
Numero 6.
Eli.
Eli.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Eli, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Eli, who's winning the Super Bowl?
Oh, man. Hard to say. I got to go with the Niners.
Okay.
Eli, you've called the program before, right?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. You have an interesting, I can't tell if it's a drawl or like almost like maybe a southern drawl, or where did you grow up?
Indianapolis.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, when you were a senior in high school, who was the biggest sports star in the city of Indianapolis?
Oh. Wow. Hard to say. That's a long time ago. I graduated in 77, so from North Central.
There you go. Al Daring and Hal Daring, were they in your class?
Yeah, yes, they were.
Okay. So
Correct
probably,
me if I'm wrong, but would Mike Woodson have been around that time a star in Indy?
He was at Ripple, yeah.
Yeah, he was at Ripple. He would have been a freshman at IU. Probably George McGinnis was pretty big at that time, right?
Probably, yeah. Probably George, Mel Daniels.
Okay.
I was really hoping Eli would have said me. I was a star.
I almost did.
Did you play sports, Eli?
I tried.
Well, that counts, right?
Yeah, that's a hell of an effort.
All right, Eli, would you like for me, your fellow Panther, to lead you off with question number 1, or would you like for Kevin to lead you off with the first question?
Oh, Panthers are the best, babe.
All right.
Hail, 86 feet
Eli,
for
your
life.
first question is this. The senior yell at North Central, which they used to do, said, featured what U.S. city that was mentioned in the senior yell? Do you remember?
Oh, boy. Long time ago. No, I don't remember.
Yeah, Eli, now you're asking Jake to go first.
Alabama. That'd be San Diego. Okay, first question for you, Eli. The Pacers lost to the Knicks last night at MSG. Who was the leading scorer in last night's game? Was it Buddy Hield, R.J. Barrett, Benedict Mathurin, or Jalen Brunson?
I think it was Buddy.
How about the other... Well, I was going to say other B. That doesn't work there.
Eli, what middle school did you go to?
How about the dad who coaches on the Knicks?
Brunson?
Okay.
Brunson. It's kind of fun watching Brunson score. I mean, he doesn't just crafty ways. All right, Eli, number 2. 5 NFL teams enter the playoffs riding winning streaks of 5 games or more. The first time that many teams head to the postseason with at least a 5-game winning streak. Which NFL team, and your Super Bowl pick, enters the playoffs riding the longest active win streak?
Niners.
Eli, which middle school was it for you, by the way? Were you Eastwood, Westland, or Northview?
Westland.
Okay, I was going to say, the guy that had the most points last night, like you, was once a Wildcat. All right, here we go. Question number 3. There are 7 teams that have won a wild card or been a wild card and won the Super Bowl. Who was the last wild card entry to win a Super Bowl? Was it the Bucks, the Packers, the Giants, or the Steelers?
Bucks, Packers, Giants, or Steelers.
One of those won. They were the most recent wild card Super Bowl champion.
Let's go with the Giants.
Kind of forgot that they were a wild card. Eli, number 4, 2 teams. The 49ers with Brock Purdy and the Dolphins with Skylar X-Game Thompson are starting rookie quarterbacks this weekend. Who was the last rookie quarterback to win an NFL playoff game? Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, TJ Yates, or Dak Prescott?
This guy has 2 athletic gears companies in his name.
2 athletic gear.
2 different companies that make athletic gear around the time that you were in high school make up this guy's name.
Give me the choices once again. Then.
Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, TJ Yates, or Dak Prescott?
Russell Wilson.
Okay.
It's like an I-step test. Which one doesn't fit? You think TJ Yates would be the one that doesn't fit on that one?
A Baloo is a bear and a Yonker is a young man.
I thought it was a lep as a ball, right?
That's right. Question 5 for you, Eli. By the way, Eli, do you want to come to our PBR party?
Sure.
Okay, there we go. We got Eli.
We might need another keg, I feel like.
On this day in 1969, Joe Namath made good on his guarantee of a Jets victory as New York defeated the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. As young Eli was just a 4th grader watching that game as the first AFL team to win the Super Bowl got it done. Where was Super Bowl III played? The LA Coliseum, Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, the Orange Bowl in Miami, or the Rose Bowl in Pasadena?
Oh, boy. I remember Joe Willie. I just guess. Let's just say the Rose Bowl.
Most Super Bowls have been held in this stadium. Is that correct, Scotty? No?
Incorrect.
Maybe City? City would be the right way to say that. What do you go with? He went with Rose Bowl?
He went with Rose Bowl.
All right, Eli, the leading scorer last night in Pacers-Knicks, it was Jalen Brunson, 34.
Question number 2. He wasted no time, and he got the correct answer. 49ers.
Yeah.
Straight.
All right, number 3. And again, this one I just kind of forget that they really were a wild card team. The last team to win the Super Bowl as a wild card entry, he went with the Giants, who I believe did it twice, 07 and 12 with Eli Manning, of course. But it is Tom Brady and the Bucks.
You blew it!
Russell Wilson was correct, and the Orange Bowl in Miami was correct for question number 5. We'll come back, put a bow tie on all of it on a Wednesday and a rainy one here. Kevin and Query.
Possession into the end zone for us. So, the other day, I bought an extremely chatty...
Boring story time.
Make that an extremely catty cockatoo.
You're welcome.
Apparently, the pet store won't take it back. But, hey, I'll manage.
I love that for you.
Just like I manage without home internet.
No, you don't.
Sure, my mobile hotspot is slow and makes streaming shows unbearable.
Oh, Bertie likes to stream.
But I'm making do. Oh no, who's this?
My lady friend. It's mating season, duh.
No home internet? It's not that bad.
No, not there.
It is that bad. Don't settle. Switch to Xfinity and get one line of unlimited mobile and home internet together for $50 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit your local Xfinity store today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account, equipment tax, and fees extra. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes of data usage. Offer ends 3/21/23.
Score, pass, out of bounds. Those are sports words. Some people hear any sports word and they can't help but listen. Like drive. Drive is another sports word. And drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. You might say those savings are on par with the best in the league. You see, par is also a sports word, so I know you're still listening. And that's called covering our bases. Okay, I'm done now. But I'm serious about drivers saving big with Progressive. Now I'm really done.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you ordered a new air filter for your car. You try to install it, but it doesn't fit. So you take a little bit off the sides. Well, it still doesn't fit? Well, you could try to sit on it. Or get it right the first time with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's going to fit. Air filters, brakes, headlights, over 122 million parts. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
There's more at Four Winds Casino South Bend. More games, more winning, more fun. The expanded gaming floor at Four Winds Casino South Bend is now open. 27 table games, 1,900 of the hottest slots, 16 live poker tables, and endless winning possibilities. And coming early 2023, Four Winds South Bend Hotel. Find your game at Four Winds Casino South Bend, your entertainment escape.
Knockouts Haircuts for Men is the new place to trust with your hair care and grooming. Knockouts is a high-end full-service salon for men. They pamper you while you relax and enjoy precision cut. Top-notch stylists and barbers. Every style. Cuts, fades, all hair types. Beard care, color, and waxing available. At Knockouts, get a complimentary beverage with any service. Knockouts Haircuts for Men. 2 Indy locations. US 36 in Avon next to Tropical Smoothie Cafe. And Clearwater Keystone next to Drake's. Walk-ins welcome. Or appointments at 288-0007 or knockouts.com.
Hey, it's JMV for my guys John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Predictions are this could be a colder winter than normal, and you need to make sure your furnace is safe, efficient, and working properly before you have a breakdown on a sub-zero day. Get that recommended service right now from Love Heating and Air Conditioning, and the Love family will waive the $95 trip and diagnostic fee. I trust them, so should you. They're the best. Love-HVAC.com or 317-754-0754. Tell them JMV sent you.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, good news for everybody. The week is further along than I thought. It's Thursday, not Wednesday, right? I don't know why I said Wednesday.
Jake, we got Purdue fans in the office, and to say they're thrilled about last night would be an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw someone doing backflips going out of the studio.
I think a PBR keg is on the way here just for that.
I think I am still really looking forward to this. When Purdue and Indiana meet this year, both of those games are on Saturdays in February. We have not had many Saturday Indiana-Purdue matchups. I think when Knight came back a few years ago, that was on a Saturday, but we haven't had many of those. So obviously we'll see where the two programs are in a few weeks, but something to look.
Here's what a buddy of mine who's a big IU fan sent me. He said the team righted the ship last season, so maybe that is still possible. But I watched about the first 10 minutes and then turned it off last night. A portion of the fan base, which includes me, is sliding very quickly towards apathy. We are going on 2 decades of consistent mediocrity.
We need a Brad Stevens has been cited in Bloomington tweet to resurrect the fan base. We got to be a few days away from that, right?
What's that?
Brad Stevens spotted at Knicks today having lunch.
I think people determined that ship sailed, right?
We're going to have Greg Rakestraw on tomorrow. Jake, remember we talked with him. We've talked with him a couple of times this year about the big kid at Kokomo.
Yeah.
Flory Badunga?
I think that's right, yeah.
I think it's Badunga, if I'm not mistaken. He had a streak snapped I saw over the weekend of 32 straight made field goals.
That's impressive.
32 straight makes. He had 26 and 16 in his last game, or at least I don't know if they've played this week. I probably should have double-checked that, but that is crazy impressive.
He is right now listed as the number 2. I mean, we talked earlier about, take with a grain of salt all the rankings and all that because you see, but typically the guys that are the top 5 or 10, it's usually pans out. He is listed as the number 2 recruit in the country right now. behind only Trey Johnson of Dallas, Texas. I'm talking about in their respective class.
And he's a junior.
Xavier Booker at Cathedral is number 1 in the nation right now for his class.
Senior, yeah.
What did I say, junior?
No, I was making it clear that they were in different grades.
Flory Badunga, by the way, all signs seem to point towards him headed to Cincinnati. Purdue is apparently in the mix for him as well.
How many of those do you think were dunks of the 32 straight makes?
25.
I mean, it's kind of crazy you make 25 straight dunks, right? I mean, how does one, like, you don't get challenged at the rim and it just kind of challenged at the rim in high school, I guess. But, I mean, he's at Kokomo. It's not like he's playing 1A schools. This from Jeremy. Jay Wright was at Knicks.
Jay Wright's another one that's going to be.
Let it begin.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed Jay Wright on TV a couple times I've seen him.
I think Jay Wright is just not only a tremendous coach, but, and I know that we don't know people outside. You just don't know them. I mean, Chris Beard I thought would have been who Indiana should have gone for, and look what happened there, right? You never know with people, but by all account, Jay Wright just seems to be a class individual that would be wonderful for any school to have as the face of their program.
This was sent out obviously before last night, and I get that it's January 12th, but I do laugh at some of these matchups that you see from a bracketology standpoint. Joe Lunardi from ESPN, he had Purdue as a 1 seed. They are
I saw this
in Columbus, and then if they advance, they'd be in the Louisville Regional. Indiana State was a 14, taking on Arkansas in Des Moines. And Indiana and Kentucky was an 8-9 matchup in Birmingham, with the number 1 seed being Kelvin Sampson. How glorious would that be?
Wasn't it last year that there was a potential for a matchup with Kelvin Sampson?
For Indiana?
Yeah.
So what, they lost to St. Mary's, is that correct?
And then more than lost.
Yeah. I thought Houston was like a 2 seed in a different region.
Maybe that's right. I thought for sure.
I'm picturing Houston playing Villanova.
I mean, Kelvin Sampson can coach. I don't think anybody's ever doubted that.
Bring him back.
He was just so arrogant.
How old is he? Been doing this for a while.
Heck of a coach, no doubt. I mean, from Washington State all the way back. How old is he, Mark? Do you have?
You're usually pretty good with age
Kelvin
guesses.
Sampson?
I'm going to say that Kelvin Sampson is. I'm going to say that he is 62 years old.
67.
Okay.
Yeah, 67 years old.
He's been doing this for
Was that a
while.
guess, or did you look it up?
No,
it is crazy though. As I always mention,
looked it up.
Kelvin Sampson, when Indiana hired him, he lost the biggest game in which he had coached in his career. He lost to Mike Davis.
Yeah, Houston and IU were not in the same.
Okay.
They're in the South, and they did play Villanova.
So today we'll continue to monitor Tyrese Haliburton's injury situation. Again, no practice for the Pacers. Hawks and Grizzlies both at home coming up Friday and Saturday. Obviously, for many reasons, you hope it's not serious with Haliburton, that left knee, left elbow. And on the Colts front, a couple of interviews coming up today. Reportedly, Ejiro Evero, I should say one. Ejiro Evero today, Bubba Ventrone yesterday. It's a Denver, D.C. and Evero. We'll break it all down for you coming up to round out the week.